He also made it known that he was trying to do music.
Was the show at a club or somebody's house?
It was a rented space.
And that's the first time you saw the defendant?
Correct.
Have you seen him again in that same kind of setting as an exotic dancer?
Once after the following year in 2022, he invited me or asked me to come out and basically help him if he needed something, and he did need help that evening.
In between November of 2021 and what month in 2022?
That was March.
And March of 2022, had you built up a relationship with him?
Yes, ma'am.
And did there come a time between 21 and 22 that you had some sort of a music studio?
Yes.
And that's what I read in the papers. And what was the music studio for?
Artists to record.
Your Honor.
Did you...
Okay.
Did you rent it?
No, it was in my establishment.
What establishment?
It was an apartment that I rented out. It had 2 bedrooms. One of the rooms was a music studio, and it was for the use
it was
of,
an apartment that you rented?
Yes.
Where?
In Buckhead, Georgia.
When had you rented the apartment?
I rented the apartment in February of 2022.
In whose name?
My name.
Personal?
Yes, ma'am.
Not in a company?
No.
Okay. I'm trying to figure out what you rented a 2-bedroom apartment for. You were married, you have kids.
Correct.
Were you living with your husband?
Yes, well, we was estranged. We was separated.
Okay, so you were separated. Mm-hmm. And what month and year did you and your husband separate?
In, I guess, January.
January of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
It's like pulling teeth. And then you rented the 2-bedroom apartment. Did you ever live in the 2-bedroom apartment yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
So you lived in one of the bedrooms?
Yes, ma'am.
From when to when did you live in one of the bedrooms?
Up until June.
And then where did you go?
Back home.
You went back to your husband?
Yes.
Mr. Alford, did he live in that apartment?
He moved in February. He was homeless.
Just a second. So he moved in February. That's the answer.
Yes.
It's a 2-bedroom apartment. One of the rooms you said was a music studio.
Yes.
Was that one of the bedrooms?
Yes.
Did you and Mr. Alford stay in the same bedroom?
No.
That's a yes or a no. Let's just move on with it. Did you and Mr. Alford, when he moved in February, live in the same bedroom?
No.
Did he stay occasionally in the same bedroom?
Occasionally.
Yeah, all right. Did he pay any rent?
Never.
There was never an agreement for him to pay rent?
Yes, it was.
When? You're not suing for any rent?
That's because that's...
That's because that? Okay. Well, you're suing for a lot of other things, but You're not suing him for rent?
No.
Okay. And he stayed there until when?
He stayed there under my lease.
Shh. Okay, what did he stay there? You moved out of your home into this apartment in January of 2022. He moved into the apartment in February 2022. You moved out in June of 2022. I want to know when he moved out.
He moved out, I guess, in November when they gave him the eviction notice. But the lease was transferred into his name. He didn't have good enough credit.
Just a second.
So I transferred the lease into his name.
So you moved out in June and he stayed in the apartment?
Correct.
Okay. So far, is what she generally tells me through my questioning correct?
No.
With regard to the apartment?
No, ma'am.
Well, tell me your version, because this has nothing to do with the case, but has something to do with who I'm dealing with. Did you move into a 2-bedroom apartment, the lease of which was in the plaintiff's name?
No. She did help me, however, get the apartment. Her friend was a manager for the apartment complex, so it bypassed all, credit checks, all that. That got me directly.
Mr. Alford, I want you to pay careful attention to what I'm saying.
I'm sorry.
In February of 2022, was Miss Thornton also staying in the apartment?
No.
March 2022, was she staying in the apartment?
No.
Did she ever stay in the apartment?
Never stayed in my apartment.
Until what month and year did you live in the apartment?
I lived in an apartment when she first helped me get it, which was in 2022, and I just moved out. I currently...
Just a second. Just moved out?
Yes.
On what date?
Probably, I think it was the end of this year. I'm currently still a leaseholder there. She just texted me and asked me if I wanted to get my stuff out of the apartment.
Who did?
The leasing office.
Are you still there? That's either a yes or a no. Are you still there?
No.
Do you still have any property there?
Yes.
So then you're still there?
Yes.
So then you're still there. If you have property there, you know you're still there. What happened at the eviction hearing? Is what you're saying the lease was in her name and she agreed to pay the rent?
It's in my name, but that's how I was paying the rent.
Can I show you the check?
Just to say, did you file tax returns in 2022?
No, ma'am.
I'm not asking you a question.
Amina Thornton claims her former client, Donnie Alford, assaulted her and refuses to return her dog's registration papers. Donnie is countersuing for the cost of French bulldogs and defamation.
Now, what happens at the eviction hearing?
They're aware of the situation.
Don't tell me what they're aware of. What happened?
Nothing happened. I'm letting them take ownership of the property. I'm giving it back to them.
When?
As soon as this case is over.
Why didn't you give it back to them when they evicted you? Have you been paying rent?
No.
Never.
She stated she pays the rent and I provide the artistry. Like, I do the art. I'm a performer. She pays the rent. That was our agreement. It's in my phone. I got it text message from her phone stating that during 2021 to 2022.
Is what you're saying the lease was in her name and she agreed to pay the rent? Well, then what do you want to show me?
It's in my name, but that's how I was paying the rent. She's giving.
She gave you the money.
Yeah, she's giving from working. I'm the artist.
Never.
Can
I show you the check?
Just to say, did you file tax returns in 2022?
No, ma'am.
I'm not asking you a question. Did you file tax returns?
Yes.
Yes. How much did you earn in 2022?
I never got anything back. My kids.
How much did you earn?
My kids get.
A ballpark figure.
Ballpark, 80,000.
Doing what?
Male entertainment, and then also, the singing and stuff.
And now I'm going to move on because I'm getting really bored with this. I'm going to get first to the dogs. While you were in some sort of a relationship, and I know that you had to be in some sort of a relationship because you say so, right?
Yes.
Some sort of a relationship. And I don't know whether he was the cause of you leaving and moving into this or not. It's not particularly relevant. But one of the things, according to both of you, that you decide to do as a side hustle is breed little Frenchy bulldogs. That correct?
Correct.
In what month and year did you decide to do this?
He wanted a dog as a pet.
Just a second. Would you give me the answer?
Yes, ma'am. June of 2022.
At about the time that you were going back to your family, to your husband?
Actually, it was April of 2022. I'm sorry.
Okay. And according to you, you purchased 3 French bulldogs.
Yes, that he agreed to care for. Yes.
If you're going to answer my question with some more stuff, that's not going to be helpful to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Where did you purchase them and how much were they?
They were all purchased from individual breeders. The first one was $4,500. The second one was $3,500, and the remaining one was $3,000.
Did you get them within a particular time period? A week, a month?
It got crown, and then like 2 weeks later, got royalty.
And this was starting in April?
I gave the deposit in April. That's why I said it actually started in April. I picked up the dog in June.
And do you have the name of that person?
Yes, I do.
Do you know that person?
I do.
Okay. Mr. Alford, do you know this person? Look at me.
No.
You do not. Are you acknowledging that the first puppy that was bought with a deposit in April?
Yes.
And the deposit was how much?
$500.
And that was to hold the puppy from that litter?
Yes.
And when you picked up the puppy, the remainder of the $4,000 was paid?
Yes.
Let me see proof that it was paid
Yes.
by you.
To go on my phone for Crown because he's not suing for Crown, so I didn't bring Crown's paper.
Is it a fact that you are not requesting the return of this dog, Crown?
No, she paid for him.
Fine. So that's easy. Do you have the paperwork for Crown?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if you have the paperwork for Crown, that paperwork should be signed over to Ms. Thornton, correct? Mm-hmm. Since you're not suing for the dog, you acknowledge that she paid for the dog. Mm-hmm. Okay. So can I see the paperwork for Crown?
Yes.
Your Honor, I have Crown registered. I don't need that paperwork.
Great. All right. Take that out. Now, the next dog you purchased was...
Royalty.
Royalty?
Yes, ma'am.
When?
In June 11th of 2022.
Right before you moved home?
I moved home right after having a miscarriage. He had sent me a derogatory text saying thanks for paying the rent, and he had me distraught, and I got out of there. And that's when I wanted to turn the lease over to him and everything.
getting it. Slowly. I want to know why you got the second dog at this period of time. You were still together.
Because he said, let's breed. That way I can
Okay, so
pay
you had
somebody
Crown
alone.
already. And how much was royalty?
Royalty was $3,500.
Who paid for that dog?
I did.
May I see the proof of that?
True.
Yes, right here.
Do you acknowledge, Mr. Alford, that the plaintiff paid for the second dog? And if you do not acknowledge that, show me where you took the money from to pay for the second dog.
It's not a fact.
Okay.
I have letter from the breeder. I have a receipt.
No, I don't want to see letter from the breeder or
And I have
receipts.
the contract.
Listen to me. I don't want to see letter from the breeder. I don't want to see a contract. I want to see where you took out the $3,500 from.
I don't have where I took it out. It was cash deal. It was cash.
I don't care if it was cash. You don't have that much cash. You'd have somebody else paying your rent, sir.
That's not true.
So, just a second. You have somebody else paying your rent. You do not take $3,500 out if you can't pay your own rent to buy a dog. If you did, you have a bank account.
Okay.
And you'll show me where you took $3,500.
I no longer have that bank account.
Well, and I no longer believe you. Okay, good. So,
I'll show you my bank account.
shh. All this shows me, by the way, is a $500 deposit on June 11th.
And I have my
I'd like
bank
to
account
see.
because they only accept cash.
Just a second. Let me see where you took the money from.
Yes, ma'am.
You picked the dog up also in June.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it. She's going to give you where she took the money from in June, and that would be $3,000 when she picked up the dog, or when she gave the money to the defendant to pick up the dog.
Thank you. Your Honor, where's 7,000 circled? Because I was supposed to get two. I was supposed to get her and her sister. They were both 3,500. But he said that the same dogs had the same bloodline and that wouldn't be.
Did you get two from the same?
No, I got one. And you can see where I gave him on the 15th $1,000.
Okay. Now, he says he has a contract. I don't want to see a letter.
Contract.
All I want to see is a contract that you said you had.
With the receipt? Can I send up the receipt as well?
You can submit a receipt, but a receipt says nothing. A receipt says you picked up the dog. Take your legs and go over to the bank and say, can I have my withdrawals, please? They will pull it up and say $2,500 in August. This is what you paid. You understand that, sir? You're a smart man. Not necessarily an honest man, but a smart man.
Amina Thornton has accused her former client, Donnie Alford, of assaulting her and keeping her dog's registration papers. Donnie claims Amina owes him the value of the French bulldogs.
I'd like to see what he has. He says he has a contract. I don't want to see a letter.
Contract.
All I want to see is a contract that you said you had.
With the receipt? Can I send up the receipt as well?
You can submit a receipt, but a receipt says nothing. A receipt says you picked up the dog.
Okay.
She has a contract for the sale of the dog. Canine contract. Now, she has seller's initials and buyer's initials.
And I also have a letter from the person at Breed stating that I was.
Just a second.
Okay.
I don't read letters from your friend. And that's who you said it was, correct?
No.
Just a second. That's who you said it was. Would you read that back to me? It's from a friend of mine. Is that what you said, sir?
There's two people that's listed on the dog agreement.
Never mind.
The woman is not
Never
my
mind.
friend.
He said one of my dance friends.
One of your dance friends. Yeah, thank you. I knew which friend, but one of the dance friends. Okay, this dog's finished. This is royalty. What do you want to show me about royalty?
This is an email asking the breeder if she would give me the papers being that he stole them.
No, I don't care about that.
Okay.
That's not only hearsay, it's not particularly relevant. What's the third dog's name?
Prince.
Who did you buy Prince from and when?
I brought him from Mr. in my town, in my county, on August 16th, I believe.
You had already moved back home.
Yes, ma'am.
To your family.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was at that time living in this 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes, ma'am.
May I see proof that you paid for Prince?
Yes, ma'am.
While she's looking for that, Mr. Alford, do you have any proof that you paid for Prince?
No, I do not.
Okay. Did Miss Thornton pay for Prince?
She paid partial of the money.
Did you pay any of the money?
Yes.
How much did you pay?
I think I sent over $2,500 for him.
Show me.
I can't. I only have the registration papers.
Well, I don't care about the registration
she
papers.
knows I doesn't have my old phone to pull up the receipts.
Listen,
all I have is what I have.
That doesn't help me, Mr. Alford, at all. The fact I got what I got, this is what I got. I don't have that. We're not talking about 10 years ago. We're talking about bank records where you can pull up bank records. You don't need a phone. All you need to do is take your legs and go over to the bank and say, can I have my withdrawals, please, for August of 2022? We're not even in August of 2023. They will pull it up and say $2,500 in August. This is what you paid. You understand that, sir? You're a smart man.
Your Honor.
Not necessarily an honest man, but a smart man. May I see the proof, please?
This is the...
Shh.
Okay.
Just show him.
And that's the $2,500.
Okay. Okay. Now, what you are suing for are the papers for those two dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have any other proof that you want to show me with regard to the ownership of these two dogs that's not hearsay, Mr. Alford? Plaintiff has the physical custody of the two dogs. Is that right? All three.
September of 2022. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You have physical custody. You have any other proof that you contributed to the payment of the dogs?
No.
Okay, good. So this court will...
Unless you want the letter. and
forget
you could verify the
forget
letter.
it.
It's not, she's not my friend. Though.
I don't care whether you paid the money, sir. Whether you turned over the money, the question is, was it your money?
Yes.
Well, you have no proof
my
that
money.
You have no proof that it was your money. In any event, go ahead.
She doesn't even care about the dogs. I have proof that she said as soon as the dog has its last litter, I'm going to throw it in the trash and you could get her back. She doesn't care about the dogs.
Well, it's too bad then that you went into business with her, but she has physical custody of the dogs. There's nothing that I'm going to do about that. Sir, you haven't had the dogs in your possession for almost a year.
I can't get them from her.
Well, that's...
Your Honor,
just a second. Just a second. I'm issuing an order to the AKC that this court makes the determination that the plaintiff is the owner of these three dogs, the two of which are in dispute right now, and that new registration papers should be reissued in her name.
In Your Honor.
Don't speak.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm finishing up with this because I'm almost done with it. Okay. I don't want to much hear about personal property. You now have the dogs in their possession. Did one of the dogs have a litter?
Yes, she did.
Okay. How many puppies?
5.
When were they born?
April 6th.
Any of them sold yet?
No.
Who's taking care of them?
Me.
Well, you're here. Who's taking care of them now?
My husband. I'm sorry.
All 3 dogs are still with you?
I have 5 dogs. Yes, ma'am.
You have 5 altogether. What kind?
All French Bulldogs.
Okay. Now, let's deal with this assault. You want to tell me what the assault was about?
He was angry because I would not pay the rent anymore. Once the dogs became in my custody, which was September of 2022, I stopped paying rent. I stopped paying everything. And he began to request loans at that point.
You mean in person or on the phone or how?
Loans?
No. Were these demands made in person or over the phone? You moved out. You're now home with your husband and children.
I still would be in contact with him because of the music. So, yes.
Well, what did you have to do with the music?
I basically financed everything. I paid for everything. He had no money. He had this dream. He was homeless at the time. And I...
Okay, so you had an argument after you refused to pay the rent.
I have
and that
pictures
was
of his
just
stuff in trash bags.
Just a second. You had a disagreement about the rent.
Yeah.
In September of 2022.
It was more than the rent, ma'am.
Whatever you had a disagreement about, you say he assaulted you. Tell me where you were when this took place.
Actual assault took place in December. I was staying
December of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Where did it take place?
Assault on her or nothing.
What?
I never been charged with assault on her or nothing.
Where did it take place?
The assault took place in the apartment.
So you were there in the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me the circumstances.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Case 2128, Hall versus Benedum.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Hall, you and the defendant are neighbors.
Yes, ma'am.
And your houses are right next to each other.
Hers is on the corner, mine is
right next to her.
Yes.
Got it. What your complaint is that I see where those two, the truck and the vehicle behind it.
The trailer, yes, ma'am.
The trailer. The property To the left of that is your house.
Yes, ma'am.
And the property to the right of that is the defendant's house.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is your claim that the defendant, in writing, agreed to sell you that little piece of property that looks like it's been carved out of her property.
Yes, ma'am.
Because you had a narrow driveway, you wanted to park these two vehicles.
Yes, ma'am.
Based upon that agreement, you went ahead and did some work on that piece of property.
Yes, ma'am.
You put down gravel, you planted flowers, all to make it look as if that piece of property was part of your house.
Not so much to make it look like it's part of my house so I can get in it, because the agreement was that there was 3 pine trees there prior to her telling me that I can buy the property.
No. The 3 trees that are there had nothing to do with this except that they were taken down. And were they taken down and the removal of the trees was paid for by you or by her?
By both of us.
By both. Okay. So you asked to have the trees removed, and you both paid to have the trees removed.
Okay.
Not only did you cut the trees down, but you took that property and made it look like yours. You say that there was an agreement in writing for her to sell you that piece of property. So I'd like to see that agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
There's no agreement in writing.
Don't say anything.
The very top line.
Just a second. I see what she says to you. I am agreeing to sell you the property you are currently parked on for $1,000 plus costs. Let's get this in motion ASAP. And then she doesn't hear from you, and that's the 18th of May. And then she writes you again a little bit later, and she says her offer will expire at the end of today's business day, 5/19. And on 5/19, at 10 o'clock at night, you write to her, "Hey, Stacy, I've started working on things this morning. I have already been to the city of Akron, and once they are done and I get a surveyor and so on, I will keep you updated if that's okay. Last, everything is time sensitive, and I'm working as fast as I can to get the approvals. Just now seeing your texts."
Right.
Okay, so that's what you're relying on as a contract to purchase property.
Well, the fact that she said that she would sell it to me, and I started all the motion like she said to do. I started all the motions, got the survey done, got the deeds done, I got everything done.
All right. That was 5/19/2021. So show me what you did based on this and what you spent based on your belief that she had agreed to sell you the property and you had an agreement for sale, which is like a contract for sale of property. Most people know that when you sell a piece of property, you get a survey, you put it in the contract, you have a contract when the property is going to be transferred. That property would have to be surveyed because clearly you're carving a piece of property out of her property. I want to see what you did and what you spent. Sell them the property either. It makes your property look ridiculous.
It does. We never agreed to sell the property. Okay.
Did you write, "I am agreeing to sell you the property you are currently parked on for $1,000 plus costs"?
Yes, I had never agreed to sell the property until I told him he was no longer allowed to park there. It was never discussed.
What is this?
Depending on the stipulation that my mortgage company requires, which is an appraisal, they had to approve the selling of the property.
All I'm interested in is this one line. The other ifs fall after that. It says, "I'm agreeing to sell you the property you are currently parked on for $1,000 plus costs."
Yes.
Okay, so you did that.
Yes.
I want to see the things that you started to do right after May 19th. You said, "I've already started working on things this morning." This is May 19th. "I've already been to the city of Akron."
Yes. This is a receipt showing the $800 from the surveyor.
Okay, may I see that, please?
There's that one. This is a receipt from the attorney where I had the deed paperwork done.
I'm looking for a date on this, sir. I'm looking for dates on these things.
Look at this one, too.
Okay, June 15th. What is this?
That's actually when I paid to have the 3 deeds made up. That's the $450 that I had to pay to the attorney for him to make the 3 deeds up. And everything Stacey had to do was sign them.
And that was June 15th. That was not quite a month later.
Right. I started the next day.
Okay. And this is so far what you spent in reliance on her statement that "I'll sell you the property for $1,000.
This is a breakdown that I have, that I wrote down, that you can show her that, of everything, the timeline. And
Now, I don't need a breakdown of the timeline, sir. I need the bills for this, not what you wrote.
Okay.
I need the bills for 6 tons of gravel. That was in July.
Here's one receipt right here.
Common sense person and a property owner. It was overreaching to think that you could buy a piece of that land for $1,000. Overreaching.
Julian Hall claims his neighbor, Stacy Benedum, owes for building costs and attorney fees. Stacy is countersuing, claiming Julian was illegally parking on her property.
Okay, so far all I have that you paid was $450 for the deeds, $800 for the survey, and gravel to be delivered.
I got the gravel in there. I also have the concrete that I had laid, flowers and stuff that I put in.
Did he pay part of having the tree stumps removed?
We split the cost and the labor of removing the debris of the trees.
No, ma'am,
What?
that's not true.
Who wanted the trees removed?
I never had a problem with the trees. I
not
like the
true.
trees.
Don't speak.
He wanted the trees cut down so he could have more space. He was already parking underneath the trees with a smaller trailer, just not his truck. He wanted more space, so he came to me and said, hey, what if I split the cost of the cutting of the trees? I said, that's fine, I'll split the cost, that's fine with me. And then I agreed to let him continue to park there as long as there was no tire marks, that's what it was. And then he built this thing.
Well, he formalized parking there. Mm-hmm. Okay. At what point did Miss Benedum tell you that she was not going to sell you the property?
This actually started on 4/3 of 18.
I'm not interested. I'm interested in the beginning of these texts,
Okay.
where you clearly had discussions, trees were removed. I don't quite understand why she allowed you to remove the trees, and I don't understand the whole transaction.
Because it wasn't my choice.
neighbor.
Just a second, it was a piece of property. Now, if you carved out a piece of property that belongs to her and you didn't have an appropriate agreement in writing, which it has to be, then I believe, based upon her statement that you acted on, you're entitled to whatever you spent to renovate that property. Do you understand? You're not entitled to the property.
No, I understand.
You're not entitled to the property. You're entitled to what you spent to renovate the property. So now I want you to tell me, on what date did she tell you that she was not going to sell you the property?
That was 7/20 of 21. After I got everything done and called her, it's actually because she met me at the bank. She said, no, I'm not selling to you for $1,000. But it goes deeper than that. That's what I'm trying to explain to you. It goes deeper than that because when it came to the trees, I didn't approach her with the trees. She came to me and said, since the tree was done, I said, well, I'll go in half with you. At that point, I said, when can I use the property? She said, you can use it as long as you need it. So that's when I started investing all this money into the property.
So what? I don't care. She said to you, you can use it as long as you want.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I said nothing permanent.
She said, as long as I need it. That's why I invested the gravel.
What I'm telling you, sir, is the purchase and sale of property has to be with a certain formality. If you dealt with an attorney, the attorney would tell you that it had to be in a formality, signed by her, signed by you, the contract that provided for sale, when it took place, what the survey was, whether her bank would agree to let her sell off a piece of the property because you have a mortgage, all of those things. That's why agreements to sell real property, which is land, have to be in accordance with a certain set of rules. This doesn't make it. However, if you relied on her statement in order to improve the property, to make it comfortable for you based upon her text message, I believe that you are entitled, based upon the text message, to what?
No, ma'am.
Since when?
I would say September of 2022.
So you were parked there in July of 21, August of 21, September of 21, October of 21, November of 21, December of 21, January of 22, all the way up to September. You were parking there.
This is because we had...
Don't give me a because.
No,
that's either a yes or a no.
I was parked there, but we also had a civil case, too.
Which he dismissed 2 days before.
We had a civil case. She called the police.
He called the police on me twice.
The question was, when did she tell you she wasn't going to sell you the property?
September, when she agreed not to meet me at the bank. That's when she told me she wasn't going to sell.
September of 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
I never knew we were meeting at a bank.
Just a second. Okay. So
I can do better
in
than that.
September of 2022, she advised you.
No, I'm sorry, it was August of 2021.
Well, show me in August of 2021 that you told him you weren't selling him the property.
Here's.
Okay, I'll take both, Kevin. Thank you.
And this was after she agreed.
Shh. Okay. I'm just looking for the date on this.
Yeah, there's not a date on there. I'm sorry, but that was after May 18th of 2021. That was maybe July or August of 2021 when I told him, since he didn't meet all the requirements, that I no longer want to sell
What
it.
requirements?
He never met the requirements of paying me the money or getting the land appraised. The only thing he didn't do that my mortgage required.
She didn't tell me about nothing about appraisal until after I got everything done.
That's why you have a contract in writing for the sale of property, sir. I don't think you did anything intentionally wrong, but there was an appraisal that was necessary. Clearly, if she has a mortgage and a bank is giving her a certain amount of money on a parcel of property, and she wants to sell off a piece of that property, the bank is going to want to know how much that the value of the property has diminished by her selling it to you. So you have to have an appraisal. Do you understand?
I understand that.
Okay. And you didn't have an appraisal. I'm not going to tell it to you again. And all I want to know is when she first told you that you didn't have a deal. So once she told you that you didn't have a deal, whatever else you invested in this property was on you.
No, and I didn't invest anything else other than getting an attorney and paying everything I needed to pay him.
Once she told you that she wasn't selling the property to you, what'd you need an attorney for? You're not the aggrieved party here. You got to park for free because she was a good soul. I would have had your trailer and your truck towed to it.
Julian Hall has accused his neighbor, Stacy Benedum, of breaking their agreement. Stacy claims there was never an agreement and is countersuing for parking fees.
Once she told you that she wasn't selling the property to you, what'd you need an attorney for?
Because I had already had an investment after she said she was going to sell it to me. Once the attorney got involved, he told me to dismiss the case. Then after that, like 3 days later, I moved off the property.
Just a minute. So who brought a civil case?
I did.
When?
Last year of 21.
And what happened with that case?
It was dismissed.
What did you bring a case against her for?
For breach of contract.
It was dismissed because there was no contract.
Your Honor, can I say something?
What?
He made all these improvements in 2018 before we ever discussed selling the property.
You mean he put the gravel in?
Yeah.
Well, how could he put the gravel in over this?
Yes.
So you did use it. You used it for how many years? You used it 18, 19, 20, and 21. You used it. You used it. You had value from it. You had value from somebody else's property. You used her property for you to park on. You
Yeah,
can't.
I wouldn't have done none of this if she would have told me no. Every move that I made, I asked her first. I got it in a text message. I asked her, can I do this? Can I do this? She said, yeah, go ahead and do it. If she would have said no, I wouldn't have done none of it. I wouldn't have put a dime into the property.
I'm not going back to 2018, sir. If you made these improvements in the property in 2018 or 2019, before there was any hint of a writing that she was going to sell you property.
She had a verbal that I can park there as long as I wanted to.
Okay, your case is dismissed, Mr. Hall. You don't have a case. You did park there until she told you not to park there anymore. And you had the benefit of parking there for at least 3 years.
I got money invested that she told me
you
that
had
I
the
can do
benefit
it.
of parking your things there for at least 3 years. Are they gone now?
His truck and trailer are, but the gravel's still there, and we have to clean up, get rid of that stuff.
It was a huge mistake. So you're going to have to take care of that yourself.
Okay.
And I would take care of that because that looks ridiculous.
I will.
That looks ridiculous. You have a counterclaim.
Yes.
For parking. Forget it.
But listen, I told him he couldn't park there back in May of 2021. He continued to park there till...
So you should have been more vigilant.
My attorney didn't notify him till May of this year of 2022 that if he continues to park there, we'll charge him $75 a day. And he continued to park there until the case was dismissed in August of 2022. So I'm only suing him for...
Talked to him previously?
Yeah.
We had a good relationship.
I'm a common sense person and a property owner. It was overreaching to think that you could buy a piece of that land for $1,000. Overreaching. And if she had it appraised, and if it's something that you want, and she had, I guarantee you that that little piece of property would be appraised at a far higher cost than $1,000. Guaranteed. And I guarantee you that her bank would say, you can't let him buy that piece of property for $1,000. How much of a mortgage are you carrying?
$76,000.
Not going to let her sell off that piece of property. You had the benefit of that piece of property for several years. I have to tell you that I really think that it's much nicer to look at plain grass than it is to look at a trailer and a truck. from her backyard.
Your Honor, I wouldn't have done none of it if you would have said do it.
Do you know what your attorney said to you? I can't help you. You don't have a contract. And Mr. Hall, that's what I'm telling you. I can't help you. You don't have a contract. And from what I know now, this all started in 2018 before there was any discussion of buying the property that you can prove to me. Because the thing that you gave me was in 2021. I have to tell you never had a problem because she was a good neighbor. If she let you park on her property, so if you think you're the one who's been aggrieved here, the truth of the matter is I don't think that you're the one who was aggrieved here. She let you park on her property. I have to tell you, I wouldn't have let that happen. I had a neighbor who had an easement. And I said, all I want from you when I bought the house was I want you to say that you will never try to claim this property by adverse possession and that you understand that it's my property. And then you can use it because it was a place that looked like it was part of his driveway. Mm-hmm. And he said, I'm not signing that. I said, if you don't sign it, I'm going to put a fence right in the middle of your front lawn, which is where your front lawn, because that's my property and you have an easement. And he didn't sign it. He would have lived with the fence until today because it's still there. Now his children are living with the fence because he's gone. You're not the aggrieved party here. You got to park for free for 4 years. For free. Because she was a good soul. She's not a bad guy. She was a good soul. I would have had your trailer and your truck towed to an impound on day 2. She let you park there for 4 years.
I wouldn't have been there.
Goodbye. We're done. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
She knew what type of work I did, so she said as long as I needed it.
It was just a tough lesson of being nice to the wrong person.
It did look like it was part of my yard, so I get that part.
I hope we can be cordial and just move on with our life.
It is what it is.
This is a great example of the statute of frauds and why it exists. So all writings for the sale of land, real estate, have to be in writing and signed by both parties. I'm sure it was created for situations just like these. There's a lot of moving parts. There's mortgages, there's banks involved a lot of the times.
There are easements, there are water rights,
exactly.
There are all kinds of things.
Legally, they're some of the most complex documents that get drawn up. So it can't be a text message for $1,000 to sell off a piece of land without all the boxes being ticked.
Right. After May of 2021, when she wrote that piece.
For his detrimental reliance on the statement.
For his reliance on that statement to his own detriment by putting in gravel and other stuff.
But then it came out, it was way before.
It was put down in 18 before she ever said anything about selling.
He took it upon himself.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2114, Berdasky versus West.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you pronounce your last name for me?
Bernadaschi.
Bernadaschi.
Yes.
Well, I read your complaint. I somehow was taken back to my own experience just walking down an East Street that has a new cosmetic place. So I sort of believe I understand what your experience was, at least initially, with Mr. West. Mr. West, you're a salesman for what company? And where are they located?
Well, they're all over the United States, but I worked for one in San Francisco.
Where are the products manufactured?
In California, actually.
Where?
Chatsworth, California.
Okay. And they have brick and mortar stores all over the country, and they have many products, but under that one name.
Yeah, they have many products.
Many products, but they're all...
Yes, they have multiple products and multiple locations all through California, and it looks like a bit of Arizona as well.
How many?
Upwards of 20 locations.
Okay. And can you tell me, Sarah, is it a corporation?
I'd assume so. They're about page.
How long have you worked for the company, sir?
That company in that location, about 3 years.
Where is the corporate headquarters for the company?
It's located in San Mateo.
Do you know if the company was incorporated in the state of California?
Yes, I believe it was.
Under that name? It's not an answer.
Oh, yes, sorry, my apologies.
It looks like it was an LLC out of Oregon, but is listed as inactive as of 12/22 of 2020.
There's no company in California?
It just says the jurisdiction in which the LLC was created is Oregon. That's as far as I could tell. They have a company address that's listed in a head office in Portland, Oregon.
What do you know about Portland, Oregon?
It's a lot of hippies.
A lot of hippies. What about your company?
Oh.
Do you know anything about your company?
Yes, I think it's probably another location there as well.
Do you know anything about the company that you work for? Was it incorporated in the state of Oregon?
No, it was incorporated in California. And I think Oregon maybe has a franchise.
I can't tell from public record anything
from the state of California.
I tried looking.
Court cases. Sure. Let's try the state of California and the state of Oregon.
Sure.
And the only thing that you could find was the Oregon company under that name that is no longer active.
It might not be the same company, but it has the same name listed in Oregon, so I would assume so, but there's no information on their website about their headquarter information.
Anyway, Ms. Bernardacci, trying to think of the date that you made these purchases. What date was it?
It was February the 21st, 2022.
And you were shopping, you were walking with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
Had a little dog?
Yes.
What kind of dog?
A Shih Tzu.
A Shih Tzu?
Yes.
My fave.
Oh, yeah, mine too. She's my third one.
You were walking in a mall. What mall and where?
In Santa Clara, California.
That's where you were working?
Mm-hmm.
How long had you been working there?
3 years.
Okay, this is what the case is about as far as I can tell. You were walking. Was it this gentleman who was standing outside?
No, it was
somebody else.
It was somebody else with a basket.
Somebody else. One of the other people who works at your business?
I was the one who offered her a sample.
Outside?
No, in the front of the store.
Well, but it's in the front of the store.
I didn't step outside of the store. I was in the front of our store, not outside of it, but inside the store, and I handed her a sample.
Just a second. Sort of inconsistent with my life's experience of these things, but let's see. Had you gone to his store?
No.
You're walking through the mall. Is it an indoor mall or an outdoor mall?
Indoor.
And when you passed that store, tell me what happened.
I was en route to a specific store. A man with a basket was standing in front of the store.
So there was a man outside with a basket?
It was a basket holding a basket.
Where outside?
Right outside of the store.
And it wasn't this gentleman?
No, it was not.
Tell me what the person looked like who gave you the sample.
I believe he was Caucasian. He was shorter than Eric. I believe he was partially bald, and I believe he wore glasses, but I can't be sure. I would know him if I saw him. Okay, so he offered me a sample of a product. And I said, no, thank you, I'm not interested. And he said, no, please. He said, you'll like it. And I said, I'm in a hurry, and I'm not interested in any of your products. At that point, Eric walked a couple of steps out from the store and started showering my dog and myself with compliments, just like over the top. And he said, why don't you come in my store? I've got a surprise for you. You are going to love me, he said. I said...
So he was doing his salesman shtick.
Yeah.
And from the smile on his face, it's exactly what he was doing, his salesman shtick.
Yeah, and pretty much
you work on commission.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so now he's showering both you and your little Shih Tzu with compliments and how beautiful the Shih Tzu is and how he's going to give you things that are going to take away this line and that line and this crease or whatever.
And I sound like such a sweet and kind person that, he's got a surprise for me.
I got it. Okay. Go ahead. So he got you into the store.
At that point, he asked me to have a seat. And again, I said, really, I'm not interested. I want to go. So then someone took my dog.
Where was the dog?
On a leash in my hand. And he says, here, I'll take your dog. And I said, no, I'll hold her. And he says, no, I'm going to take care of her. And I'm going, wait a minute. And next thing I knew, Eric was practically on top of me. This chair was located in a position, well, his chair was much higher than mine.
So you were sitting in a chair like mine?
Yeah, well, a chair, just like a
makeup chair?
Yes.
Or a hairdresser's chair?
Kind of like a makeup chair.
And he was sitting on a chair or a stool?
A stool.
Stool. Is that right, Eric? I'm talking to you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's a yes. Okay. And your stool was higher than her chair?
That is incorrect. We both were sitting on stools.
The same stool?
The same stool.
Was yours higher?
No, it was the same size.
Okay, go ahead.
So, and I'm looking around for my dog, like, what's going on here? And because he was very aggressive and pushy. And
Just tell me what he did without trying to editorialize.
Okay, so basically he
put on all this goop on your face, on your hands. Somebody else in the store was holding your dog while he was putting this on you. He didn't force you into the chair. He aggressively coaxed you into the chair, is what you're telling me, by complimenting you. I mean, he didn't physically drag you into the store. You walked in by yourself.
Right.
Okay. He was using his best aggressive salesman routine. Not easy to get somebody in the store, right, Eric? I mean, it was never easy to get me in one of those stores, and I shop with her all the time. And she's got more lotions and potions and stuff on her counter than any other human being I know. And I've never seen anybody successful in giving her a free sample and getting her into the store. So you must be very good, because we have a few of those stores right in the neighborhood. You must be really talented.
He is.
Just a second. So before we finish with her, and since you originally started, Mr. West, with, no, it was me outside. It wasn't you outside initially. It was somebody else. You came out afterwards. Well, actually, I believe her. So I want you to understand that her description of the person who initially approached her was so specific. And then the fact that you came out and joined that person, because then you became a tag team, is totally convincing to me. I want you to understand that.
I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave the store. I've been held against my will before and kidnapped. And I was literally traumatized at that point.
When were you held against your will and kidnapped?
Linda Bernadeschi claims salesman Eric West owes her a refund for skincare products she never wanted.
Do you have family, Eric?
Yes.
I believe the plaintiff when she tells me you weren't the initial person out there who stopped her with a free sample.
I was the only one working that day, Your Honor.
I don't believe you.
Okay.
Because you couldn't have got her where you got her to, which is the story she's going to finish, because by the time she got out of the store, she had $8,000 worth of your product.
Which is also not accredited by the Better Business Bureau and has multiple complaints out against them. So, just for the record.
No, that's an important record. Keep looking.
Okay, so at that point, I decided I'm going to leave and take my dog and get out of here. And I attempted to get up, and he was sitting higher up than I was in such close proximity that I was unable to fully stand up. And as he saw me attempting to, he comes back over with another product. He was across the store, and
well, if he was across the store, Miss Bernadeschi, if he was across the store, then he wasn't hovering over you. So what I tried to tell you before is, I want you to tell me not what you think is best for your case. If either he's standing over you so you couldn't get up, or he's across the room. If he's across the room because he went to get another product, you could have gotten up and left.
No, actually, he wasn't across the room. He was just like, I think it was at the desk behind.
Whatever. He wasn't right on top of you.
No.
You don't understand. I don't believe that you were held against your will in the store. I don't believe that they did that. I think he was overly aggressive and he chose a target.
Yeah, and I was...
Okay, and at what point did you purchase all of this product, which is the subject of this case, because you want your money back?
I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave the store. I've been held against my will before and kidnapped. And I was literally traumatized at that point.
When were you held against your will and kidnapped?
Oh, this was like 15 years ago, maybe?
Well, I would remember that, whether it was 15 years ago. I want you to tell me about that. That forms part of who you are and who the person is that I have to consider with regard to whether or not this was a...
Yes.
And did they actually find the people who kidnapped you?
Yes.
Was there a trial with regard to those people?
I don't believe so, because the guy was on parole, and so he didn't want to go to trial.
So they violated his parole and he went back to prison?
Yes.
And that was in California?
Yes. But
so when you were in the store and you said you felt as if you couldn't leave, you were under pressure. How many people were in the store?
Well, there was Eric and the gentleman that was standing outside of the store, and then a woman came from behind the register in the back room, and he was telling me how this woman is a world-renowned facial beauty massage, whatever expert, running drag on me, pretty much. Let's just put it that way. Anyway,
now you're up from your chair. I want to know how the sale came about.
Well, because I didn't feel that I was going to be able to leave.
Okay, so tell me what happened.
Okay, so I said, look, I don't even have any money to cover this. And I'm looking...
To cover
he
what?
asked me for my
To cover
identification. What? To cover the cost of these beauty products he wanted to sell me.
Okay, how many were there?
There was 4 or 5 different... creams, and then there was a device that, I don't know what you call them, but it was a device that he had used on me while I was sitting in the chair. And, you know, telling me, look in the mirror, doesn't this, you know, can't you tell a big difference? And he even took my phone and took a couple of pictures of me. He says, look at, I said, I can tell a little bit of a difference, but it's not worth the money. And again, I don't even have the money, so I really need to go. So he asked for my driver's license to register the product. And then he told me...
To register the product?
The product that I bought.
Oh, so you did say you would buy the device?
Yeah.
You did say you would buy the device. And how much was the device?
It was just shy of $8,000 opened. I still have it. I haven't touched it. You wanted to see the receipts?
Yes.
Okay. They're right here.
By the way, what time of day did you go to the store?
This was approximately 6:30 because it was near closing time. Oh, here's the rest of them. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was going specifically for one lipstick. That was all I was at the mall for, and it was almost closing.
Sarah Rose, take a look under that name.
I didn't find a device on their website. I already looked, if that's what you're going to...
You looked at this 3D ultrasound and face body?
I've just found 6 products that are creams for face and body on the website.
I'd like to see what this 3D ultrasound is, this $8,000 piece of equipment that you sold her. You have a picture of it? Okay. Could you get that for me? He's going to give it to Sarah. Sarah's going to look up this nonsense.
Thank you.
Some more receipts.
So what I see that you did was spread some of this around different credit cards.
Yes.
And you want to tell me, how did that happen?
Well, I said, these aren't even my credit cards. I'm on the roommate's. And he says, well, you could put half on your roommate's credit card. And I says, no, I am not going to do that. And he says, yeah, make him pay for it. And I'm looking at this guy like, what's going on?
What are you doing with your roommate's credit cards?
Because he's an older gentleman. I've got the power of attorney, and I shop for him. He's not able to do all that.
Is he a roommate, or are you a caregiver?
He's a roommate. We've lived together for 30 years. Anyway, just a very
He hasn't been old and sick for 30 years.
Well, he's kind of...
He may be old and sick now, but he wasn't old and sick for 30 years.
Oh, well, no. I mean...
Do you live together as a couple for 30 years? Do you live together as an almost couple?
No, he's like my father almost. We each have our separate rooms, and I pretty much take care of his house and cook for him. And he doesn't go many places. He's pretty much a recluse. He doesn't like to go to the store. And so I do all the grocery shopping and everything.
Okay. Don't look up in the air. It's going to get only worse.
Linda Bernadeschi is accusing salesman Eric West of holding her against her will and selling her an unwanted skincare wand.
Do we have a picture of that thing? Juven. It's.
Yeah, I have it.
What?
I have it. It looks like this. And it's got this on one side, and then I don't know what this is trying to show you.
Ultrasound, face and body, slimming.
Yeah.
She doesn't look like she needs slimming.
She asked for something that would tighten her skin, as she said that in her younger years she had a lot of issues with drug abuse when we had our conversations, and she's asking for something that can actually help her look more youthful and help her skin tighten. And this is something that she discussed with me when we were sitting at the table.
What's your educational experience?
High school, college.
Where?
I went to like a couple of film and television schools.
I asked you what college you went to.
Oh, Olympic College in Washington State.
And was that a 4-year program?
2-year.
2-year. Is that a brick and mortar college or is that an online college?
Brick and mortar.
And what did you study there?
Just the basics.
What basics?
Gen Eds, you know, your associates, your Gen Eds. And it had nothing to do with my sales and skincare, but my sales and skincare, I actually deal with every client fairly, and I pride myself in integrity.
Don't tell me that you deal with every client fairly. She wanted her money back the next day.
She didn't want her money back the next day. She didn't even come back the next day.
When did she come back?
It was like a week or 2 later. She came back to the store and wanted a refund, and I said, well,
No, just a second. Okay. She came into the store on February 21st, 2022. You get home with all these products. You spread held against your will, according to what you told me.
Yes.
So you know that when that happens, the police get involved. You didn't go to the police when you left to say, you know, I was held against my will. You took the products and you took the products home, right?
Well, I didn't go directly home. I went to my friend's house. She lives 2 blocks from there. I was so traumatized I couldn't drive, and I was beside myself.
Okay, that was February 21st.
Yes.
So what did you do next with regard to Mr. West?
Okay, so by that time it was about 9 o'clock at night, 10 when I got home, and I thought, well, I'll call tomorrow to tell him I want a refund. Actually, I called him and told him that, and he says, well, you're supposed to be down here.
When did you call him and tell him you wanted a refund?
It was the next day when he called me. He called me the next day and says, where are you? And I says, I'm at home. And he says, well, how come you're not here for your free 12 facials that I offered you? And I says, I don't want anything from you. And I didn't ask for anything from him.
So he called you to come in for a free facial?
Yes.
And
I says, I don't plan on coming in for any of the facials, much less 12 of them. What I'd like to come in for is a refund on these products that I don't need. And I felt pressured into buying yesterday, and I can't, I don't want them.
You say that didn't happen for a week?
Your Honor, she had a contract with us for 6 months worth of treatments, hydrofacials, that we included in her purchase that she signed. And
I'd like to see what she signed.
It's actually on my phone. I didn't print out a copy. I apologize. Why not? Because I was rushing this morning, and
Well, you were rushing this morning. You knew you were coming to court for days. What do you mean you didn't print out a contract? Do you have a copy of a contract that you signed?
Yes, I do.
Fine. I'll take a look at your copy.
I also have a police report. Do you want to see the
I'd like to see a police report, and I'd like to see a copy of the contract you signed.
Okay, and here's some fictitious businesses that he's got as well. Okay, the contract.
Can't hear, just hand me the stuff. Skincare, is that your company?
Is that the product you're referring to?
Yes.
Those are the medical devices that we actually retail in the store, and we demonstrate them on the clients. And then typically clients, when they see a difference, they're like, oh, wow.
Listen, you're not selling me, sir.
Oh,
stop
I understand.
This is not a sales pitch to me. What's your commission when you sell an $8,000 light to make your skin nice? What's your commission?
20%.
So yours personally is 20%. How much do they buy them for?
I'm not sure.
What do you think? What do you think? Take a good guess. You've been working for them for 3 years.
I don't know. And I think that you'd have to factor in like the rent for the establishment and all of those things. So I don't really know what the profit margin would be.
Your Honor, on their website, they state that each individually owned brick and mortar store is not affiliated with them, that they run their own stores. It's sort of a franchise-esque situation.
Who owns your store, or is it a franchise?
It's a franchise?
It's not a question. It sounds like you were asking me a question. Is it a company-owned store, or is it a franchise?
There's a company that owns the store.
But it's a franchise.
Yes, I believe so. I'm not familiar with the legalities of the location and all the business agreements. And
who hired you?
It wasn't hire. I was in business with him.
Okay, well, it's getting more interesting. Okay,
Yes.
so it wasn't a hire. You're in business with a man whose name is what? Don't think about it.
I don't
if
know.
you're in business with somebody, you're a smart boy. You went
don't know how to pronounce his
You went to a
last name.
2-year college. What's the name of your business partner?
I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
What?
I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Spell it.
So I don't actually know how to spell it. I'm sorry.
And who leases the store where you are? Don't look up in the air. It's going to get only worse.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2115, Atar versus Rhodes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Atar, you were hired to do some, according to you, demolition work and other work at a property owned by Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes. You gave them an estimate for that work. I think the estimate was $11,500. Is that correct?
Correct.
And it was outlined what work you were supposed to do. You started that work, and according to you, at some point there was disagreement with either or both of the Rhodeses, and they stopped payment on a check that they gave you.
Correct.
And the check that they gave you was for $4,200. And then you stopped work for them.
Yes, ma'am, we're finished.
So you're suing them for the canceled check and for other unpaid work that you did that you didn't get paid for.
Correct.
Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes say that they were not satisfied with the quality of your work. It cost them $9,000 to both replace things that were stolen from their property by either you or members of your team, something which I don't think that you question, that somebody from your team, not you, somebody from your team may have taken metal property of theirs that they didn't own. So let's go back. Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes, is this a new property to you, or is this a property that you owned for a while?
It's a new property to us.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
So is it a private house?
Yes, and we were remodeling it.
Okay, when did you purchase it?
We purchased in January of 2021.
Is it a single-family residence? Yes. How much did you pay for it?
$769,000.
Describe the property to me.
It's in northern Altaloma or Rancho Cucamonga. It's an acre property, has 2 levels on it, and a single-family ranch-style home on it right now. And what we asked him to do was demolition the lower half.
Do you have a photograph?
I do.
I'd like to look at the photograph of what you wanted him to do.
That's what the lower half looked like before.
So this whole portion you wanted him
correct
to demolish and remove the debris.
And grade flat. The debris. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. And did you have a written contract?
We did not.
Well, that's always a mistake.
Always.
How did you find him?
I believe I got his business card. It was on my personal car, I think at Home Depot. We had bought this house and we tried to find somebody to do the work, but...
Mr. Rhodes, let me tell you that the best way to find somebody is not somebody who leaves a card on your car at Home Depot or any place else.
Yeah.
It was a difficult time to find contractors with COVID and everything at that time.
And at the time, I'm also going to add, because I read in the paper somewhere at the time, he didn't have a license.
He did not.
And you knew he didn't have a license.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I told him, Your Honor.
Just a second. They didn't say no, we didn't know. They said we knew. So you got somebody who had no license to do what you wanted him to do, and you got his number from a card that he left on your windshield. Did you ask for references? That's either a yes or a no.
No, and I'm not really sure actually 100% on where I found that card. I think
it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he did tell us he was in the process of getting his license. That it was coming.
Yeah. I know.
What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. You're two intelligent people. Okay. So you hired an unlicensed contractor to do work on your house and agreed to pay him $11,500. Now, Mr. Attar, the $11,000 included labor and materials. Is that correct?
There was no material. It was labor and bins.
Well, that's material. Labor and bins to remove all the equipment that you needed to complete the job.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Of before, too. What I was supposed to do, and I took a picture.
Well, no, I have that.
You have the wrong picture, Your Honor.
Okay, I'd like to see the picture that he has.
I was supposed to do from the post all the way to the other post, remove everything, and the pool and the deck.
Mr. Attar, the $11,500 was together. You hired somebody in a Bobcat to do a Bobcat. That's a big piece of equipment that knocks down something.
I rented a Bobcat.
And somebody who operated it.
My worker.
You didn't know how to operate the Bobcat.
I know how to operate Bobcat, but I was controlling the demolition site, ma'am. I was like many things were going at the same time. I had to control everything.
Mr. Attar, something happened with the Bobcat, the original one that you got. What happened with it?
It broke down on us.
No, it didn't break down on them. It broke down on you.
On us.
It broke down on you.
Yes.
So what did you do?
I took it back, and next day supposed to deliver me another one, but they sent me a drunk driver and another broken down Bobcat. I returned it. At that moment, I asked Mrs. Rhodes, can you please go down Home Depot, which is like a mile away, so we don't stop wasting time, rent a Bobcat or not.
Just a second. Why should she rent a Bobcat, sir? Your $11,500 included the Bobcat.
But I paid for it.
No. If you're going to pay for it, that's one thing. Then what are you sending her for? If your $11,500 figure included all materials, then she doesn't have to rent a Bobcat. If you rented one that didn't work, rent one that works. How much of a down payment did they give you?
Presume was $4,000.
When did you start the job?
I started the job on 15th of January.
When did you leave the job?
I was asked to leave on the 2nd of February.
On February 2nd?
Yes, ma'am. Not to go back, I'll call the cops on you.
Between January 15th and February 2nd, other than the $4,000, did they give you any other money?
Yes, Your Honor, they did.
How much money did they give you?
They gave me up to $7,000.
So they gave you an additional $3,000?
Yes, and $1,000 check.
Your Honor, that was within the first week we gave him.
It doesn't matter to me. My question was between January 15th and February 2nd, they gave you $7,000.
Correct.
Explain the other $4,200, which is the check that they stopped payment on.
Okay. I'll happily explain to you. The Bobcat she rented for me on her behalf, it cost $329 to rent per day. And I rented for 1 day only, but they...
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you.
Michael Attar claims his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, owe for unpaid demolition work. Mary and Michael are countersuing for lost wages, equipment rental, and missing property.
Now, they paid you $7,000.
Correct.
They wrote you another check.
The final check was supposed to be $5,000, but they only gave me $4,200 because they mined $800 for the Bobcat rental.
Just a second. First of all, the total bill wasn't 7 and 5. 7 and 5, even my rudimentary math, is $12,000. That would be $500 more than your agreed contract, which was for $11,500.
They gave me $6,500 because they gave me small checks. They gave me the first initial
Just
check,
a second.
They gave me smaller ones.
Sir, you're the businessman, whether you have a license or not. I asked you before how much money did they give you between January 15th and February 2nd, and you said $7,000.
I didn't write it down, Your Honor.
Well, you're here asking for money, and you have to write it down.
You have to have some work I've performed already. And
no, sir.
And I just did the job, Your Honor. I did 7, 8 other side jobs.
I don't care whether you did 7 or 8 side jobs. Your original agreement with them was for $11,500, including all material. Now, what you said to me was that they gave you $7,000, and you said they're supposed to give me another $5,000. Well, another $5,000 is more than your quote.
Ma'am, the balance was $5,000.
How?
The initial check, then they gave me $1,000.
How much money did you give them all together that he cashed?
$7,000.
Then they owed you $4,500, pursuant to your agreement.
We agreed to $11,000, not $11,500.
$11,500, Your Honor.
And it wasn't $500. If they gave you $7,000, they don't owe you $5,000. They owed you the difference between $11,500 and the $7,000 that they gave you. Now, one of the things that you disputed, Mr. Attar, was this Bobcat. Who paid for the Bobcat? Show me.
They minus it from the final price.
Just a second. Was that an argument?
The argument about is, Your Honor, is they rented for 1 day, but they charged me 2 days, $800. There's no Bobcat rental for $800 for 2 days. I got.
Do you have the bill for the Bobcat?
I do, yes. And it was for 2 days.
Go over a certain time.
Because it was returned late. So they charged a second day. But in his text messages, he did request it for 2 days.
Is that the total price?
Yes. And I did not subtract it from his payment.
Total contract was $652.74?
Yes.
Do you have a photograph of what the property looked like when you left?
Yes, ma'am. The last picture I took before I was kicked out of the property.
You're talking, I'm not listening to you. Just show me a picture.
Yes, ma'am. This is not a picture.
Mr. Attar, you're the businessman.
Yes, ma'am.
This is your company.
Yes, ma'am.
Company requires A, a license before you operate, which you didn't have.
If you
B, it requires a written contract. You're the businessman. They're people who bought a house who got your number off a windshield someplace. You're the businessman, and you want the parameters. You want them fixed. So I don't know if it's 11,000 or 11,500. Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Right. Well, that's your mistake. You look as if you've probably been in business for a long time.
14 years.
And is what you're telling me you don't have written contracts?
All my contracts are verbal.
Then how many times have you been in court, sir?
Never.
Never.
I've never had a stop payment check. Never pays me on time, Your Honor.
It's the problem, sir. When you finished, the debris wasn't all removed.
That wood, they kept telling me, don't touch it. Their neighbor, cousin, whoever's going to come pick it up. That was just cut court wood.
No. There's brick. There's wood, there's cement.
We cleaned all that. I personally cleaned all that.
Just a second. What I asked you, Mr. Attar, was show me a picture.
Somebody to stop payment on a check, Your Honor. I was not expecting that.
What it looked like when he left.
What about after me?
Well, what are you showing me here? This brick that's here?
They piled it there and then left it there.
Well, that's probably a good.
No, it was supposed to be removed.
So this is the back.
That's the picture of the sagging patio because he removed part of the supports that were holding up the patio that he wasn't supposed to. So it's now sagging.
Now, this is the picture that you gave me when you told me this is what you wanted, leveled, cleared, and made flat.
Right.
Now, I want to see your picture of what this looked like when he left.
You have it. It's in some of those photos.
Flat leveled.
You're talking about this?
Yeah.
That's part of it. The close-ups, that's part of it.
Well, it looks like most of the stuff is done. It looked like a lot of cleanup left.
No, ma'am. We've done all the cleanup.
Well, I haven't seen that, so then what you're supposed to do is take a photograph.
It was also buried underneath. These are the photos of when we did it ourselves and really leveled it out. And as we were doing that, we found so much buried underneath that should have been removed, but his Bobcat person buried it all.
Your Honor.
Buried
all the debris, all the concrete brick.
Okay, let me see the bill from the...
No, we did it ourselves. We rented equipment and did it ourselves on his vacation.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay, $4,500 is so far what's owed on this contract. Now, your counterclaim is money owed for lost work, equipment rentals, labor and missing damages to property. What money owed for lost work?
During the second week that he was working, he called and said that his crew had left. This was the second day of supposed to be use of the Bobcat that I rented.
Okay, if you interrupt me again, I'm just dismissing your case. Do you understand?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. So just explain lost work. Who's lost work? I'm not interested in his lost wages for taking care of his house. So far, you owe the man the balance on his contract unless you had somebody else do it, which is absolutely fine. And I would look at that removal of debris, what it costs you, and you're absolutely entitled to that. Deducted from what you owe him, which is $4,500.
But he didn't finish the job.
Just a second. You tell me, how am I supposed to gauge how much of the job he didn't finish? Did he not complete $2,500 worth? $3,500 worth? $1,500 worth?
I think the $7,000 we paid him was overpaid. He didn't have to end up removing an entire pool. He only had to remove...
That's your problem. Just a second. I read that. You said it's not a big pool. It wasn't 8 feet. It was only 24 inches. He gave you a price to level everything. Nothing delineated. Nothing in a written contract. The pool turns out to be 2 feet instead of 6 feet or 2 feet instead of 8 feet. Well, if he was the contractor and he came out and he looked at the pool, he said, oh, this is an 8-foot pool, and it turned out it's a 12-foot pool, he'd be stuck with 11.5, just like you're stuck with 11.5 because it was shallower. Now, you owe him $4,500 unless you want to produce for me bills that you have for rental equipment, etc., and I will absolutely deduct that from the $4,500. Just give me the bills and the amount of equipment. Don't say nothing, Mr. Rattar. Mr. Rhodes, did you rent a Bobcat?
The one that I cleaned up the yard with?
Yes.
I rented a piece of equipment.
Jump up!
Yes.
And you know how they pick up metal?
No, I don't know that, sir. I'm a television personality. I don't know about people driving down the street to pick up metal. I've never had somebody drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Michael Attar has accused his former clients, Mary and Michael Rhodes, of refusing to pay for demolition work. Mary and Michael claim he never finished the job and stole their property.
Now, what did you rent?
A skip loader.
That's different from a Bobcat.
Yes, that's correct. I think it was
all the equipment we rented
in Ontario.
$1,300.
Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah.
Find the bill.
They didn't print it, so now I gotta.
How many days did you have it, Mr. Rhodes?
4.
I'm dismissing your counterclaim, Mrs. Rhodes. Do you want to know why? Because I asked him a specific question, and you answered. Do you understand? Do you understand? That part of your counterclaim, because you don't have it, you can't find it. So far you owe him $4,500. Not $8,600, but $4,500. Now, do you have any proof that Mr. Attar or someone from his team stole copper piping or whatever piping that you claim is missing? Do you have any proof that either Mr. Attar or anyone under his authority took property from you?
Yes. We have text messages back and forth.
Okay, I'll read them. Okay, so what you're referring to with regard to the stolen property is you send a picture and there's a little piece of pipe there, one piece of pipe, and you say, Mike, did you or you guys happen to grind off 2 metal poles and concrete blocks? The kids use those for volleyball nets. And he says, oh my God, no, sir, but I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to, no problem, Michael, please give, and I don't see the rest of this message.
Yes, so that was the beginning of things we noticed that were missing.
Oh, I don't care.
And then,
this is what you're talking about?
Yes, he's saying he let a metal person onto our yard, and they went and took everything that was metal.
Okay. Okay. Now, Mr. Attar.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me about the missing metal on this property.
She was standing right there, and there was a metal guy that drive down the street.
Drive down the street and say, I'm looking for metal. They don't even come down my street and ask if I want sharp knives.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Do you understand?
Very much, Your Honor.
Okay. Who is this person?
This person was picking up metal, and I asked for permission. I said, ma'am,
just
can
a
he
second.
come down the property?
Just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Was this person picking up metal for nothing?
Yes,
Just a second. Yeah. You're a business guy. Mr. Attar, somebody drives down the street and says, you know, I see you're doing construction. Is there any metal around here that you want me to dispose of?
Yes, ma'am. They do a lot.
Yes. And then they look around. This is what you tell them. They look around and they take the metal for nothing.
Yes, ma'am. This would be cheaper for me instead of load it on my trailer and take it to the recycling metal yard.
So what metal did they take, sir? I assume
everything that I gave them.
What did you give them?
Nobody went up there and cut no poles, ma'am.
Well, they sent you a picture of a pole, sir. And in response to the picture of the pole, you said, oh, my God, I'm guessing the person whom I gave my metal to.
I'm guessing.
No problem. And then you say later, tell me what it is, and I will either look high and low to get it back or replace it. That's what you say.
Yes, I offered to replace it.
That's what you say.
I offered to replace it.
Now, next question. I need an itemized list and what the value was of the metal taken.
There's a list of everything. They're listed in there.
What is this?
Those are all the damages, but the metal is listed in there separately of the items that are missing.
No, it isn't. This is a whole bunch of other things that you prepared for this case.
It's in there underneath. There's the horse feeder. Part of the corral was cut off.
This is something that you wrote yourself.
Yes, you said an itemized list.
If they took 6 feet of pipe, get me a bill from Home Depot for the replacement of that pipe.
Oh, I have
all the bills for the replacement of metal, not what you prepared for this litigation.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Itemized list.
Did you take down a horse corral?
No, Your Honor, I did not take no horse corral. I have nothing
Horse corral is that divided horse corral?
Yes.
That looked like this?
Yes.
That they took down?
They cut pieces that were sticking up above the horse corral, attached to the horse corral.
You're being petty. You're being petty. $306 Rams price, galvanized wall-mounted horse feeder. Did you take a horse feeder?
No, Your Honor, I got no.
Yo, Mr. Ratoff, $4,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Well, his equipment broke, and he wanted us to rent the equipment for him.
Equipment died because things break down.
And then the next day, he calls and says he can't finish it.
At that moment, I didn't have a credit card to my name. And that's the honest truth.
So we pretty much figured that was job abandonment at that point.
I'm going to have a written contract in the future. Don't hire
Always
him.
hire a professional.
I could not believe that your first question to him when he said that he'd been working as a contractor for 14 years was, and you've been working all 14 of those years unlicensed?
Oh, yeah.
I was waiting for the question. I was waiting at the edge of my seat, and it never came.
Different minds. Yeah. Should have slipped me a note.
I should have.
You should have slipped me a note. No, that actually didn't cross my mind, but that's a good question.
Yeah, oral contracts and no license.
No license, but there's no question. He did the work.
Yeah, no, I agree.
He did the work, and they were really dickering over who was going to absorb the cost of the second Bobcat that they had to get, which was really ridiculous. If they had had another contractor who came and completed the job,
you would have awarded that.
I would have deducted it from the $4,500 that they owed him. But absent that, the fact that he rented some sort of piece of equipment and came and cleaned up the property was not important to me, and the rest of their case was nonsense. Next time, they won't employ somebody for $11,000 from a card from your windshield.
At Home Depot.
From wherever, and not say, okay, listen, maybe I'll give him a shot. Give me 3 of your last references.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case 2112, Landy versus Wyatt.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Wyatt, when did you become an esthetician?
I was licensed as an esthetician in March of 2021.
Okay. Miss Landy, this is what your case is about. You hired Miss Wyatt for your business. You have a spa business? Is that what it is?
Your Honor.
How long have you had the business?
I've been in operations as an S Corp since 2016. I worked for myself as a sole proprietor since 2009.
How many employees did you have in 2020 and 21?
In 2020, it was during the pandemic. We were shut down most of the time. In 2021, there was up to 5 employees, not including myself, Your Honor. It was 6 of us total.
Does that include Miss Wyatt?
It does, Your Honor.
When did she start working for you?
She started working for me in February of 2021 as a receptionist. I hired her as a receptionist.
Okay. Not an esthetician?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Were you going to school at the time?
I was not hired in February. I didn't get my license until March of 2021.
What the plaintiff says is you were hired in February. She probably has documents to work as a receptionist.
I was not hired. I didn't even have my license then.
Did you have any proof that she started in February?
Your Honor, I have proof that she...
Was she on your payroll?
She was on my payroll.
Okay, so that's
what we have document of in that is that she started brand new as a receptionist. Maybe it was in March of 21.
Okay.
I have my first paycheck stub.
I'd like to see it.
Okay.
This is a pay stub from April.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Okay. This is your claim. Your claim is that when Miss Wyatt came to work for you, subsequently as an esthetician, which she was, because she counted her among your 6 employees in 2021. Okay. You don't have that contract.
Nope.
Miss Wyatt, when you went to work for the plaintiff, do you recall signing a document?
I do recall signing documents stating like what my job title was and like the documents that would go towards what we went over and things like that for training purposes.
Okay.
Your Honor, I have non-solicitation, non-disclosure agreement documents of employees. There's 4.
Okay. Is this an employee of yours?
No, it is not, Your Honor.
Ever? Was ever?
Never been an employee.
Were either one of those 2 people employees, former employees?
Tabitha Brown was.
Was this a former employee of yours?
Tabitha Brown was a former employee.
At approximately the same time?
She was an employee of mine for 5 years up until April 17th, Your Honor.
Did she voluntarily leave or did you?
She voluntarily left.
Okay. Did she voluntarily leave to go to work with the defendant?
I did not know that until the day defendant left.
But ultimately you determined that she did?
Sure did.
Okay. She was with you for 5 years?
Sure. Yes.
I assume that if you have a business and you don't have this contract, which you allege if you could produce, had a specific non-compete clause in it, but you don't have it. She remembers signing something, but she doesn't remember exactly what it was. Can you stand up? Tell me your name.
Tabitha Brown.
Miss Brown, did you sign a contract when you went to work for the plaintiff?
Yes, I didn't remember that I did.
You did?
Yes.
But you did?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a copy of her?
I sure do. And
just a second.
Okay.
Do you have a copy of it?
I don't.
No. But you have a copy of what she signed?
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Your Honor.
No. Just
Okay.
let Tabitha Brown, March 22nd, 2022.
Yes.
Different.
Oh.
That is not the non-solicitation, non-disclosure agreement. That's a different agreement. Those are contracts she has signed.
Oh, well, you gave me 2 things. What is this?
One is her non-disclosure, non-solicitation, and also the second one is the role definition of an esthetician working for me.
Looking at the non-compete. Okay, this is pretty standard. Kevin, would you show this to Miss Brown? And I also want you to show it to Miss Wyatt. That clearly your signature.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And so that says within 1 year of your leaving Miss Landy's employment, you will not work in a related field within 7 miles from her current place of business.
Yes.
When you left her employment, did you go to work with Miss Wyatt?
We left to share. Yes.
The answer is either yes or no. So you did. You went to work with Miss Wyatt. And when you went with Miss Wyatt, that was sometime in 2022.
Yes, ma'am.
What month?
May of 2022.
Your Honor, that's incorrect.
Shh. Don't. I'm not needing your help.
Okay.
In this case, you don't have a physical signed contract, so I don't see why you think that you have all documentation.
I don't have documentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Due to the fact that I believe she stole the information out of my filing cabinet.
I still have to pinch myself to really believe it. You don't get better if you win all the time. You look at yourself more when you lose.
I'm thinking of my daughter today. I miss her so much. This is making me want to be more adventurous for her.
Angela Landy claims her former employee, Alishani Wyatt, stole clients and breached their employment agreement.
Now, does Miss Wyatt have a location, a shop, a store, a place of business, or does she operate out of her residence?
We share a space.
You share a space where?
At the Salon Studios in Valencia.
Have you calculated the distance between that space and Miss Landy's office?
I have, ma'am.
And how far is it?
3.4 miles.
Well, you're not allowed to do that, pursuant to the terms of your agreement.
Correct. I don't have a copy of that agreement, ma'am.
Well,
I have it now, but at the time I didn't. It's from 5 years ago, and I never received a copy of that. So it was.
I don't know whether you received a copy of it or not. It's your signature, and it's pretty standard fare. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's not standard fare. So, Miss Wyatt, what I have to do is sort of put together whether or not I believe that you, in fact, had the same document that you signed.
Correct.
And I believe that you did.
Okay.
Despite the fact she says that you probably took it when you left. I can't describe that conduct to her. But this is pretty standard fare, that within 1 year it's not too onerous, it's not within a 50-mile radius, it's a 7-mile radius. 3.5 miles is certainly well within that. You could have found some place that was 8 miles away, and then we wouldn't be in this difficulty. But you didn't. Anyway, so you were in violation of your contract when you left and went to work and shared space with Miss Wyatt. Okay, but you're not suing her.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because I know the case would be dismissed because of the last Tabitha, but because there was no evidence.
What do you mean there was no evidence?
I had no evidence the way I have evidence today with Alishani that Tabitha solicited clientele.
Okay, now you can sit down.
Thank you.
So that small claims case was dismissed?
Yeah, I have nothing there, which I learned. I have nothing to stand on what I have to stand on today.
Well, what you had to stand on, Miss Landy, which I don't understand, you had a non-compete agreement with her. She's in violation of that agreement. That's all you need. And she violated this agreement. She went to work within 7 miles of your place of business. So I don't understand that. In this case, you don't have a physical signed contract. I have to reconstruct whether I believe that there was one. So I don't see why you think that you have all documentation.
I don't have documentation.
That's what I'm saying.
Due to the fact that I believe she stole the information out of my filing cabinet.
I don't know whether she did or not. Right now you say it's a lost document. You can't find it.
Correct.
Okay. And the defendant acknowledges, and it's usually custom and practice in the business to sign a non-compete when you have that kind of service industry. Right. And I'm prepared to accept judicial notice of the fact that when you go to work for a beauty salon or a hair salon or a spa, you develop a clientele within the spa. You can't open up a store next door and steal the clients. Most people have people sign this, and you did, and you had it done 5 years ago. So Ms. Brown is in violation of this contract.
That is correct.
Why somebody dismissed that, I don't know. I have no idea. Okay, so now you're going to demonstrate to me that Miss Wyatt solicited clients of yours.
Yes,
show me.
Okay, in July of 2021, Alishani was trained to be an esthetician.
Let's not go back to ground zero. I'm not interested. I am assuming for the purposes of this hearing that she signed a non-compete clause, just as Ms. Brown did. So let's start from
here.
Fine, I'd like to take a look at it.
And my witness, Kennedy, is here as well.
Well, let's go to Miss Kennedy. Was Miss Kennedy a client of yours?
Yes, Your Honor.
Would you stand up, please? Your first name?
Kennedy. Kennedy.
Last name?
Johnson.
Miss Johnson, how long had you been a client of Miss Landy's spa?
I want to say about 2019, Your Honor. I was there before the pandemic and was there for a while before it shut down due to COVID.
Were you there after it reopened?
Yes.
After COVID. What kind of work do you have done there?
I get sugared, which is using sugar, lemon, and I believe it's honey and water. And you mix it together and it takes hair off of you.
And who did that for you?
I went through many of the clientele and the employees at Angela's shop at the time. So there were several people that, Alicia was one of them, as well as Tabitha.
How many times did the defendant do the waxing? Sugaring.
I want to say at least 5 times.
Do you recall when she left Miss Landry's?
I do not remember the date. However, I do remember getting a call from her company. I got a call saying...
From Miss Landry's company?
Yes.
Yes.
Your Honor, it's Landy.
Landy.
Yes, from Miss Landy's company. They had called me on my cell phone and told me that she was no longer there. And they had told me she was no longer there.
You can't tell me what somebody from her shop told you. That's hearsay. I want to know about the solicitation. If there was.
Yes. So one point while the defendant was there.
Sorry. Do you understand?
Yes. While the defendant was there, I had gotten sugared on my face. It was a small patch test. And after she had texted me, gave me her personal number and told me if I had any reaction, texted her and sent her a picture of my face and told her that I was starting to have a small reaction. I did not receive anything back for a little bit. And then I want to say around April, late March.
Well, when did you text her?
This text for the face patch was earlier, I want to say early March, maybe February.
Do you have the text?
I believe she gave it to you.
The third one, Your Honor.
What date did Miss Wyatt leave your employ?
April 22nd is when I got her immediate resignation.
April 22nd, 2022. And is this what you're referring to? Hey, Kennedy, I forgot to tell you, if you wanted to book with me again, I could put you in my books. I'll be in Valencia.
That's correct.
And is Valencia where your shop is?
3.2 miles away, Your Honor.
No. Answer my question. I have a question. Is Valencia where your shop is?
No.
That's my question. Why don't you just answer my question?
Okay.
Tell me what she told your attorney. Do you understand?
Even if I have an affidavit?
Is your attorney in the military?
No, I just have a notarized affidavit.
From whom?
My
From
attorney.
Her? No, I don't take affidavits from attorneys. It's ridiculous.
Business owner Angela Landy has accused her former employee, Alishani Wyatt, of taking her clients and breaking their agreement.
So Valencia is not where your shop is. Valencia is where your place of business is.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. So you left on the 22nd, is that correct?
That's correct.
On the 20th, 2 days before, you tell Miss Kennedy, because I assume that this was a planned move of yours, that she can reach you again at your new place of business in Valencia.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, well, you're not allowed to do that.
During the services, it's a very intimate service, so you start to gain a relationship with these clients. And through that time, I felt like I had gained a relationship. It wasn't just a client with...
Or other than you.
Yeah.
She may have liked you better than the other people. That doesn't diminish the fact that you knew that you weren't supposed to solicit clients. You knew that. I believe that you knew that.
Yes.
Because that's standard fare. So your excuse is you thought you developed a personal relationship with her.
Correct, Your Honor.
How many other people did you develop a personal relationship with?
Majority of the clients that I had who were returning clients of mine, I felt like I had built personal relationships with.
If you're potchking around with somebody's face or scrubbing their body or giving them a scrub to get hair off on every part of the body, then you develop an intimate relationship
Correct.
with somebody. Now, your first name is Kennedy?
Yes.
Kennedy, did you ever go out to dinner with Miss Wyatt?
No, I did not.
She ever invite you to her house?
No, she did not.
Was the only time you ever saw Miss Wyatt while you were having a service?
That is correct.
You see, that's not an intimate relationship. That's just stealing clients, Miss Wyatt.
Okay.
So my question to you is, you're seeking damages, okay? Did you seek injunctive relief?
No, Your Honor.
Why not?
I didn't know about injunctive relief. In addition, because of the staff leaving, because of solicitation, admitted solicitation by Alishani to my attorney, and I have a sworn affidavit for that. Because of that, I ordered them a cease and desist, and they ignored the cease and desist. Alishani told my attorney that she did not.
No, you can't tell.
Hearsay.
You can't tell me what she told your attorney. Do you understand?
Even if I have an affidavit?
Is your attorney in the military?
No, I just have a notarized affidavit.
From whom?
My attorney.
Her? No, I don't take it.
Me, I have my own personal LLC, and she has her own personal LLC, so none of our money is combined.
Miss White, how many of your former clients from Miss Landy's business followed you?
I would say a good portion. I don't have an exact number.
Yes.
Here you go.
Now, just tell me.
I would say at least.
No.
No, I'm sorry.
I don't want you to say I would say at least. I assume you have names, people.
I have names and people here.
How many of your clients
20.
went to Miss Wyatt?
20.
Not was solicited. Follow me very carefully. Not solicited by her, but actually left your business to go with her.
Actually left my business to go with her.
20.
Yes, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see. Does that sound right, Miss Wyatt?
Yes, Your Honor.
Then I don't have to see. She says that that's about right.
Your Honor, I would also like to add that after I left, she did send out a mass text allowing all of the clients who had ever seen me to be aware that I was no longer there. So that also allowed more clients to reach out to me in different aspects.
No, my dear, you made the mistake.
Okay.
You made the mistake by opening up an office within a 7-mile radius, which you can't do.
Okay.
You solicited her clients. I thought maybe just 1 or 2, but 20, that's a lot of clients. 20 recurring clients is a lot of clients. Miss Landy's request in her small claims case is the maximum of the jurisdiction, which is $10,000. And I think that she deserves every penny of that.
Okay.
Because what you did was wrong and a breach of your contract with her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $10,000.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This court is adjourned.
And I have to tell you something. That's ongoing.
Okay.
Just so that you're aware.
I felt like the work environment was very unstable.
I have so many people to testify, including employees, that it's not a hostile work environment.
And I was constantly anxious there.
I was doing so much with an HR team.
Let the better business win, I guess.
The better business has won.
I was a little bit confused. Maybe you can shed some light on it for me. Why the plaintiff wouldn't sue for injunctive relief, because injunctive relief is suing not so much for damages, but to get someone to stop doing something. So in this case, it seemed to me that the proper ask, per se, would be injunctive relief to stop the defendant from operating her business in violation of her contract. But she didn't do that. She sued for damages instead. And I just think that this same problem could keep happening, that I think it's a good lesson for people to educate themselves or hire a lawyer to find the proper relief. Because what's to say that this is going to stop today? I'm sure she'll keep seeing the 20 clients.
Well, she's going to keep seeing the 20 clients. This judgment today was more compensatory than punitive, because if she had taken 1 client with her, well, she's in violation of the contract, and some token violation would have been appropriate, but she took 20 clients with her.
I got the feeling from you that you weren't exactly in line with the $10,000 number until you heard about 20 clients.
I mean, that's really
a whole business,
some sort of chutzpah to knowing, and I believe she absolutely knew, she's a smart cookie, knowing that you had a non-compete, because her friend who she also took with her had the same documents signed in 2017. So, and she's clearly a businesswoman, so that would be a consistent practice of hers. I don't know who took the contract out of the file cabinet. It's for another day. I reconstructed it. I actually don't know why she wouldn't sue for injunctive relief as well as punitive. Have a seat, everyone.
Case 2052, Henry versus Christine.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Henry, what you're doing is suing the defendant with whom you had a relationship for a period of time for the return of property that you had in an apartment that you once shared, and for filing a false restraining order, a false police report.
Yes, Your Honor.
The defendant says that you never lived with her, that you damaged her front door, and you filed a restraining order against her that was false. So, Miss Christian, I think I'm going to start with you.
Yes, ma'am.
According to the papers that were filed, you and Mr. Henry did in fact live together for a period of time up until
October 9th.
Shh. Up until October 9th of 1921.
Yes, Your Honor.
Of 2021, 1921, who hardly almost the year of my birth.
Yes, ma'am.
2021, when he left.
Yeah, without a note.
Just a second. October of 2021. Then the information that I have contained in these papers indicate that he sort of came begging back. And that was in February.
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2022. And you took him back.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was living with you. You were living in the same apartment from February of 2022 until what you say in your answer is June of 2022, when for some reason you were looking through his phone. Now, you were looking through his phone because he was acting weird or whatever.
Yes.
That's June of 2022. You understand where I'm going, Miss Christian, don't you? Of course you do. So from February of 2022, February, March, April, May, for 4.5 months, Mr. Henry and you occupied the same residence.
No, ma'am.
Your residence.
No, ma'am.
Well, that's what you say.
No, ma'am.
Oh.
He lived in his own apartment in Merritt Island. When we got back together.
Here we go. On February 15th, 2022, he contacted me and we got back together. He had his own place and never lived with me again. He would stay over occasionally and bring a few things to make himself comfortable. On June 21st, where?
In my bed.
Okay. In the apartment?
Yes, I work at 6 o'clock.
In the apartment?
Yes, ma'am.
Of course, yes, ma'am. And I saw that he was setting up a date with the mother of his child.
Yes, ma'am.
I got upset, dropped off my son, and then came back home while he was packing. He told me he was taking my couch, TV, dresser, dining table, and everything in my apartment. So my next question to you is, who paid for the couch?
Me.
I'd like to see a receipt.
I don't have it.
Who paid for the couch?
It was a couple years ago. Sorry.
My brother, Adonis Glover, he's the one that gave me the furniture.
Just a second.
He gave me the couch, the love seat, the lamp, a few other things listed on that document.
When did he give them to you?
He gave it to me before me and Miss Christian moved in the first apartment.
So let's go back. Where was the first place that you lived with the defendant?
Cocoa, Florida.
Okay. From when to when?
From 2020 October to February, March 2021, because that's when her lease was up.
Were you both on the lease in that apartment?
No, I wasn't on that lease.
Just you?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's the first place that you lived together?
Yes.
And why did you leave that place, Mr. Henry?
She was relocating to Titusville. I helped her move into it, and I moved in as well.
Does that sound familiar to you? Be very careful what you say to me, because when I say I read the papers and I have my own preconceived ideas of what this case is about based upon 50 years worth of experience, be very careful what you say to me.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Does that sound familiar to you?
No, ma'am, he is lying.
He is lying about what?
Adonis did not give him that furniture. Furniture was given to me, never was given.
Just a second. So we're not talking about the furniture now. We're talking about that this is all about furniture.
No.
Mr. Henry, value of property. She's not paying you for property, for furniture that was given to you that was secondhand. You have to understand that. If I find that it's your furniture, you're going to go and get it.
Yes, that's what I was hoping.
Just a second. You're going to go and get it. Yes. If you can establish to me that it's your furniture, you can keep it. You're not a married couple. I have a couple of issues with some things that I think that you did, because I actually think that you were together and he was packing his things, but then the police were called and you told the police that he didn't live there. Isn't that right?
Yes. Okay. Because...
And just a second. And that wasn't true.
It is true.
Tell me where he was living.
He was living in Merritt Island. Okay. Whenever we broke up in October, from October to February, we broke up. He reached out to me the day after Valentine's Day. We started talking. He was buying me gifts to try to get back in my good graces. He was doing all this extra stuff to try to get back in my good graces. We got back together. He never did move back in with me. He always did live in his apartment in Merritt Island. I work at 6 o'clock in the morning till 12 p.m. Sometimes whenever I didn't have a babysitter, he doesn't have a job, he would watch my son. That's why he had a key. That's why he had to spend the night bag and all of that. He would bring over his clothes, shoes, PlayStation, anything to make himself comfortable to stay the night. And whenever the police were called, they made him collect all of those belongings and leave. They escorted him off the property, told him that he was not allowed back. They told me that
well, that's because if that's what's happened, that's because they believe you, which I don't.
Okay. They definitely...
That's because they believe you, and I don't, because if he was trying to get back in your graces and he was living in his own space and you weren't back together again, why in the world were you going through his phone? If you were just a casual gal, and the casual gal doesn't let him stay with her son because, well, he was available and he wasn't working, so he watched my son and he stayed over. That all sounds like a whole lot of Who Shot John. And it was convenient for you to be able to say he doesn't live here. So all I want to know, Miss Christian, is this case is mostly about furniture. Used furniture.
I also have...
So no.
No, the TV does not belong to him.
Who does it belong to?
The TV was a gift from him to me that I ended up paying off because he told me that when he bought it, that it was bought cash. Whenever months later, I paid the TV off.
No, you didn't.
Just a shh. First, you're going to show me that you paid it off. I assume you have proof that you paid it off?
I gave him cash for it because I did not think that we were ever going to break up.
Well, you never thought you were going to break up. I thought he didn't live with you. I thought he didn't live with you. You don't buy TV for somebody that you don't live with, that you're not going to watch all the time.
Eventually thought we were going to move into a house together, Your Honor.
Your Honor.
Oh, don't tell me what you thought.
The TV that was bought was before I even
Okay.
That had nothing.
That's a PlayStation and
That's still
Nintendo.
property that's still at the apartment.
Okay. These are things that you say are yours.
Yes.
That you bought and paid for.
Yes.
Okay. All of these receipts.
All of it. No help.
Okay, so let's go beyond the point of now you're back together again, because that's what I believe. He's in bed, you're going through his phone, you find he's making a date with the mother of his child, you get annoyed, you take your son to another location because you know that there's going to be an argument. You come back, there is an argument,
Yes.
He wants to take stuff, whatever, police are called, you tell the police he doesn't live there, they escort him out. He wants his property now. You're not married people. Whoever paid for the property or whoever was the recipient of a gift for the property owns the property. That's simple. You know, that's what the law is. What you want me to believe that a police officer saw him kick down your door, go into your apartment, take property, and did nothing. That's what you want me to believe.
Raheem Henry claims his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, owes for personal property. Erica is countersuing for door damages and stolen property.
Okay, he has 22. This is a TV, an LED TV.
Yes. That was my birthday present.
Nah. What? Okay, so I have titles to these things. You have titles or receipts for any of these things?
I don't have receipts for any of those things. He grabbed his PlayStation, his Switch, and everything whenever he left. The only thing that is in my apartment is the TV that he bought me for my birthday. May is my birthday. May 7th is my birthday. That was my birthday present that he bought for me.
Did you take your Nintendo?
No.
Did you?
I haven't had. Recently, that was something different. My storage unit was just broken into. This is why I don't have original documents. And she stole more of my property.
I don't know that. Did you file a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did they ever find any of the property?
No,
Perhaps?
not right now.
Okay. The couch, whatever other furniture is there, is how old? I mean, it used to be used furniture, so it was.
Yeah, my brother Adonis got it when he paid for it. It was like a kind of like a bundle deal for the apartment, like a lot of furnishing, and I ended up giving him some money for looking out.
That was 2-3 years ago?
Yeah.
And it was used furniture at the time?
Yeah. It wasn't nothing like brand new out of the seal.
How much did you pay for the TV?
I got taxed when I was like at $15, almost to $2,000, because it's a 60-inch smart TV.
Okay. So what is it that you want, is my question.
I want a court order to go get the rest of my property.
What? I have to know what the rest of your property is.
Yes.
You have the TV.
The TV, I have asthma medication, I have plantar fasciitis.
I want to tell you something. She threw out your asthma medication.
I believe so, too.
She threw out your asthma medication.
Yeah.
What else?
I have crutches. I have.
You have what?
Crutches and certain things. I have
you don't
PlayStation.
Look, you don't need crutches. And the PlayStation you said was in the storage unit.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not interested in the storage unit. So far, I have a TV. What else?
My mattress, my bed, my
you don't
stuff
want
that I had
you
from
don't
the
want
apartment.
That. You don't want a mattress. Are you back with this lady now?
No.
Where are you living?
I've been living on the streets. I've been living out of my car ever since this been happening.
Where are you going to put a mattress?
I have a storage unit that I was going to just collect. I'm pretty much just trying to salvage what I can because I have things that's sentimental.
Place to put a mattress that's a couple of years old. So you really don't need that. I mean, I can give you an order to get your mattress, but what are you going to do with it? It's just going to cost you to go get it and to store it. So you really don't need it.
I don't need it, but I would like to still get all of my property back. Like the stuff that I paid for because I worked hard. I furnished
I'm giving you
apartment.
your TV back. You're going to get the TV. I haven't figured out what else it is that you really want to make this whole thing worthwhile. I'm not giving you any money. Do you want the mattress back? You paid for it. You're entitled to it back. I can give you an order for the mattress and the TV.
Okay. And I also have electronics, like from games to controllers, just so much things that
TV, mattress, box spring. He's going to come and get it with a marshal, but he's coming to get it within 5 days from today.
So what if I pull up my bank statements to show that I gave him cash around the same time that whenever it was pulled up and everything? Because I did give him cash for the TV, for the bed, for actually more than he ever even put into it.
Let me explain something to you. Unless you have a check made out to him, I have a problem with somebody who lies to the police.
Ma'am,
I do. I have trouble with somebody who got very angry because her boyfriend, who was living there, watching her son, brought a TV, bought a mattress, bought a box spring, bought all of those things, and then you got annoyed that he was involved again with his child's mother. You dropped off your son someplace else to come back to have a fight with him. You did have an argument with him. Police were called. You said to the police, he doesn't live here.
Your Honor, he moved out.
He doesn't live here. That's what's here.
Your Honor, I never moved out.
He moved out in
We had a
October.
whole business together.
No, we do not. That business is in my name, and I have the receipts to that, too.
You have to understand something. I know what happened. I don't believe you.
Ma'am, I'm
you
telling
have
you
to.
the truth.
No, you're not. You're not telling me the truth. That when the police came, you said
he belongings on October 9th. Whenever he left, without a call, without a text message, without anything, he broke up with me and left. He got back in contact with me in February. Mind you, we never lived together after that.
He was just staying over to watch your son when you got angry in June.
Whenever
it was June. It was June, 4.5 months later.
Which he would go back to his apartment. He would come. He never stayed more than a couple nights consecutively.
Okay. He's coming to get his TV. He's coming to get his mattress and box spring.
Can we
You have a
talk about
counterclaim.
my counterclaim?
You have a counterclaim for damage to the front door.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay? Damage to the front door.
Kicked my front door down.
Okay. When did he do that?
The day after he was police escorted, they told him not to come back, and the next day he came back and kicked my door down right in front of the police officer.
So he came back with a police officer.
And kicked my door down.
Just a second. He came back with a police officer, and the police officer was there when he broke into your apartment.
Yes, and they were going to take him.
No, tell me what they were going to do. And they did nothing.
Well, they trespassed him from my apartment complex.
I'm asking you, what you're telling me is, madam, which is why I have problems with you right from the get-go. What you're telling me now is he came back to get his property. The next day,
He didn't come back
with a police officer.
Yes.
And what you're telling me, a police officer, and what, you live in Florida?
Yes.
What you want me to believe that a police officer saw him kick down your door, go into your apartment, take property, and did nothing. That's what you want me to believe.
He didn't not do anything. He was completely confused on who actually lived there.
You're telling me a police officer was confused.
I'm telling you the truth. They were very confused on who actually lived there.
Bring me just a second.
They were trying to figure out if it was my apartment, his apartment. I had to go get my property manager, bring my lease that only had my name on it.
You don't understand. The last place you lived with him full-time, your name was on the lease too. Only yours.
Correct.
And you lived together. So now you took his lease again, just in your name, and said, he's not on the lease, he doesn't live here.
We broke up, though.
Okay. All right. He's coming to get his TV. He's coming to get his mattress.
Okay.
And I would like to see a police report. I would like to.
I also have an iPad.
Just a second.
Okay.
You're done. You're going to get your TV, your mattress, and your box spring. Taken advantage of.
Raheem Henry has accused his ex-girlfriend, Erica Christian, of keeping his personal property. Erica claims he broke through her door and stole her belongings.
Now.
Yes, ma'am. I have my Chromebook, my iPad, my office supplies, things that were stolen from my company that whenever he kicked my door down and took things out of my apartment that day.
Okay. Now, let's get to the company. What kind of work were you involved with when you and the defendant lived together, Mr. Henry?
I did all the graphic design. I made the business cards.
Just a second. Were you involved in graphic design?
Yes. I actually went.
Just a second. Together?
No. It was mainly me.
And you did this over a computer, over a laptop?
Over a tablet, over my iPad.
So the business supplies that she's going to tell me about were for the graphic design business?
Yes. Some of the supplies, but I never stole anything. I just had an iPad that I worked on, and I did graphic design on that was mine. I gave her cash for it. She found it on Amazon for me for a good deal. I was able to draw on it. She's never had access to it. There's always been my Apple ID on it.
Where is it?
I don't know. The day when I got escorted out, she came out of the apartment. I was going in to get the rest of my belongings, and she was saying, "I can't find my iPad. You have it." And I right then and there, I knew she found it and she took it and hid it. So the officer let me go inside to get my belongings. I looked in the closet where I had it wrapped up. Gone. I walked outside and was like, Erica, where's my iPad? I paid for that. I do work on it. That is mine. She said, I don't know. It's gone. You must have it. Had this whole sob story about it. So still to this day, I have no idea.
Okay. What else?
My iPad that he stole the day that he broke into my apartment. My Chromebook that he stole the day that he broke into my... I'm so sorry.
I wasn't able to leave with anything because they made me have to go through a civil suit because she started claiming stuff and saying it was hers and it wasn't mine. So the officer didn't even let me go back inside the apartment.
I want to know when you went in the presence of a police officer, whether you pushed down the door, kicked down the door or not. Unless I have a police report, I don't actually believe that the police officer... He
was my escort. I actually met him.
Did you take any electronics with you when you left?
I didn't leave with anything.
Okay, Judge, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. What I'd like to see is a police report or any other documentation that he took anything the day after you had him evicted from the apartment where he was living.
She didn't even have me evicted.
I have the receipts of the stuff that he stole.
He said he didn't take anything. He said the police officer was there, wouldn't let him take a printer. I mean, those are heavy electronics. And that was the only other time he was in the apartment.
He also checked my car.
No, he didn't.
Unless you have some sort of a police report for me, Miss Christian, I don't believe you. I think that you were really angry. I think that you were really angry because he left in October. You took him back in February. You found out that he was not being straight up front with you, and you were dishonest with the police, which is all part of being angry and felt that you were being taken advantage of. According to you, you was together so much so that he bought you a television set a month before you threw him out for your birthday that cost thousands of dollars. That's what you just told me.
Ma'am, he bought that TV in February for me for an early birthday present. He bought it for an early birthday present and told me...
He's coming to get, listen to me, he's coming to get his TV, he's coming to get his box spring, he's coming to get his mattress. It's a court order. It's a court order with a marshal in 5 days from today. Do you understand?
I also have
5 days from
my
today.
Countersuit, my false police reports, the false injunction, everything that he did.
I have to tell you something. The same way that I'm not entertaining because it's over, this fib that you told to the police, which caused him to be... don't interrupt me. I'm not entertaining. You filed restraining orders against each other?
She filed...
Just a second. You filed restraining order against him?
No, ma'am.
Good. It's exactly what I thought. Because neither one of you have to say goodbye. You have to stop being angry, but you have to give him back his property.
I only wanted the restraining...
TV, mattress, box spring, 5 days from today. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished with this case. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think that it was unfair.
I'm pretty much just happy it's all over.
Broke up with me without even a text message, a phone call, nothing.
She just took it and ran with it, and she decided she was going to take matters into her own hands and be spiteful.
Very single. No more relationships for a while.
It's definitely time to move forward, move past it.
The good one is out there, but I have not found him yet.
It's just nice that at least it's over. It's a weight lifted off my shoulders.
I sort of felt sorry for him. He probably deserved some of it, but you can't lie to the police.
I think she was being vindictive by saying he doesn't live here. He doesn't live here. He sort of kind of lives here if you're being truthful. But it's always a good idea to have your name on the lease if you can, because that's all the officer has to look at in a squabble like what happened between them.
Yeah, it's almost between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah.
If your name is not on the lease, you're not responsible for the rent.
Yep.
And I've usually suggested that when you're living together, you don't have both people's name on the lease, because in the event that you separate, who's going to stay in the apartment? And if you're the one who leaves, your former partner may say to you, don't worry, you leave, I'll take over the rent. But if they don't, you're still on the hook with the landlord. So
there's pros and cons to both.
But it's an exit strategy. Yeah. And people have to be smart enough. You see, he had an exit strategy. His name wasn't on the lease. Yeah. But then he needed it. Caught. But I think she was being dishonest. And I think his brother did, in fact, give him some old furniture. Who cares about that? It's from decades ago.
You only stay a few nights. You're not bringing your furniture.
Your couch, your TV. Yeah. Anyway, they just have to get over it and move on.
Put a period.
Put a period. Now he has his TV and he has...
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2023, Henderson versus Williams.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Henderson, you and your kids and Miss Williams and her kids decided to rent a house together.
Yes.
And when was that initially?
We moved in January 21st of 2021.
How large a house was it?
5-bedroom.
And who moved in with you?
Me, my 2 children, Tara, her 3 children, and...
The third roommate?
Yes.
What was your share of the rent?
The share of the rent?
Yours?
$14.95.
And yours?
We paid, me and her split it, and then took cash from...
The third roommate?
Yes, so $14.95 too.
And you lived there for a year. What I gather is sort of towards the end of the year, things were getting a little testy between the two of you, either because of you or because of the kids. You had children, and things weren't working out, so that both of you were not real happy with each other. That be a fair statement?
Yes. It started earlier in 2021.
I'm sure, but at the time that the lease was up, you both weren't really happy with each other. And according to your complaint, she left, you were stuck paying the rent, and she had signed a renewal of the lease, and you want her to pay her portion of the rent until you found a new roommate, which you actually found a new roommate several months later. The defendant says she told you that she was contemplating living with you for another year, that her speculation that you went into her room and took a signed copy of the lease and gave it to the rental agent or whoever it was.
It would have been in the kitchen in my area where my papers were.
Whatever.
Yeah.
And it was never her intention to sign a second lease. Your lease was up in January of 2022.
Yes.
The defendant was away for a period of time. When was the defendant away? Just prior to January of 2022.
She went to Hawaii for...
Landlord?
No, they were turned in December.
By both of you?
For the lease renewal, all 3 of us re-signed in December. And I have a copy of that.
What I'm asking you is, were they turned in, because that's very easy to verify, were they all turned in before she went to Hawaii?
Yes.
Okay. I'll see what you have. Well, Ms. Williams, if it's your statement that she took your signed copy of the lease and turned it in without your permission at some point when you were in Hawaii, that's what you're alleging. If this doesn't bear that out, Ms. Williams, I'm going to tell you it doesn't lend itself to the truth of that statement, because this indicates that the 2 of you and the third roommate signed this on December the 19th. Then you turned it in. Then it was turned in. That was before you went to Hawaii. The landlord signed it on December 20th, which means that if the landlord signed it on December 20th, he signed it before you went to Hawaii, which means she couldn't have stolen your copy of the lease.
Right.
Do you understand?
Yeah, no, I'm not stating I was in Hawaii when she turned it in. I left for Hawaii January 8th through the 18th.
I understand that.
Okay. I was unaware.
When our lease was up for renewal, we weren't getting along, and I was on the fence about spending another year with Ellen. In December, we received a copy of the lease renewal. I felt pressured into signing it, but then we told Ellen we needed more till I returned. Where did you go?
I went to Hawaii.
Well, that was in January.
Yes.
Well, but the landlord got a copy of the signed agreement December 20th.
I didn't know it was turned in.
Oh, well,
receive an
I
email.
don't know whether it was turned in or not.
So I emailed Rentcon, and I have messages stating it was received from Ellen.
Okay. I'll see what you have.
Okay.
No. This doesn't say that at all. Lease renewal was signed by all 3 tenants. Correct. Lease was signed by all 3 tenants, and it was received before you went to Hawaii on the 20th of December. Okay. Easy. You moved out in February?
January 31st of 22.
When was the first lease up?
The 22nd of January 22.
So you stayed on after the lease was up?
Yes.
Why?
I wasn't completely moved out yet. I was in
that's
Hawaii.
too bad.
I had reached out to Rincon about paying extra to pay the extra few days.
No. Okay. And when did you get a new roommate? Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off. You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good.
Ellen Henderson claims her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, broke their lease and filed a false restraining order against her. Tara is countersuing for a security deposit, utilities, and damaged property.
Okay, when did you get a new roommate?
She moved in
About February and March, $14.95, $29.90. Okay, the next part of your case involves filing for a false restraining order. Did you file a restraining order, Miss Williams, against Miss Henderson?
Yes.
I'd like to see what it says. No, don't give me that whole thing. Your application for a restraining order, I'd like to see what your application for... Don't hand them that whole thing. I said I'd like to see what your application for a restraining order said. Okay, so what you say is she sent you 3 letters. You're asking because she sent you 3 letters. They were annoying. I want to know what she was asking for in those letters. Was she asking for rent money? Was she asking for rent?
Yes.
Okay, so she was asking for her money.
Yes.
For your rent money for the months that she didn't have a roommate. Well, that's not harassment, madam.
There's more, but...
What?
There's more. She's telling me that I stole some of her stuff and stuff. In the first letter, it says, if you don't pay this in 5 days, we'll take...
Yeah, she's allowed to say that. Okay.
Yeah, which
so
is
she wrote
totally
to you.
fine, but she sent it 2 more times, emailed it, and then showed up at my children's school while I was dropping them off.
Did you keep blowing her off, or did you answer her?
No, I didn't.
No, just a second.
I did not.
Did you blow her off, or did you answer? So the answer is you blew her off.
Yes, I was fine with going to court.
You blew her off.
Yes.
About the rent, which she was stuck with.
Right.
Right. Okay, good. $29.90 is what she owes you for rent. Now, part of your counterclaim for get money for day.
It was half of...
How much was your security deposit?
$1,747.50.
1,747. Is that right?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. And where is her security deposit?
In our lease, it states that if you break the lease, the deposit stays with the house. And I have an email from the property management stating that same thing, that she signed a lease saying that if she leaves early, the money stays with the house until everyone moves out.
So the security deposit, if you and your new roommate keep the house safe, you're going to get back.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Mm-hmm. And you don't allege any damage. Is that correct?
I had to clean up the carpets in her room upstairs. And
okay, do you have an invoice for that?
No, I did it myself.
Okay. 2990 less 1747?
$1,243.
So far, she owes you $1,243. That's less the security deposit, which you and your hopefully neat roommate will get back.
May I say something about the payments for rent? So it was me and her doing equal rent at $1,795.25. So that's what I paid. Me and her paid that in January, and I paid the entire amount in February, March.
I understand she was no longer paying rent. You're getting the rent, but I'm deducting from that.
My portion is $1,795, and that's what I'm asking her for, because that's what her portion was when she moved out as well.
Just a second. Am I correct that she, at the time you moved in, individually paid as a security deposit $1,747? Is that correct?
Yeah, but I'm talking about the rent payments. It's not $1,495, it's $1,795.
Was your rent each month $1,495 or $1,795?
$1,495.
Can I see it? Anybody have any proof of that?
I printed out the log, but she paid us $300.
The third roommate.
Right.
So your amount was $1,495.
Correct.
I got it. Okay.
Up until the end of December.
Okay, I'm finished. Now, the next part of your counterclaim is for utilities. Security deposit you get back. What utilities do you think she owes you?
She did not pay me November, December, January, or February closing for utilities.
Did you pay them?
I paid them.
I'd like to see where you paid them. No, don't give me a whole bunch of papers. I don't want to see a whole bunch of papers that I have to go through. I want to see what utilities there were, when you sent her a statement of what the utilities were.
Yes.
I assume it worked that she paid you a portion of the utilities.
Yes, it was
What
split.
portion of the utilities did you pay?
We split it equally the whole time we were there.
Okay, so whatever utility bills that were paid by her, you were supposed to pay half.
Correct. Which
did you?
My last payment to her was December 4th for Spectrum Water, Trash, and Gas.
That was 12/4. How much did you pay her?
$364.61.
Okay, just a second. Did she pay you $364 in December?
She did for prior months.
So that was for November. That covered November. If it was paid in December, that covered November.
It would have been more so October. I
can't get involved with that, madam. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. Don't give him a whole bunch of papers. December and January statement for utilities. You were gone in February.
Yes.
December and January, settle up on the utilities.
And I didn't include it in the lawsuit, but she still owes me for trash. And I have a list of stuff that she took of mine that I did.
I'm not interested in it, Miss Henderson. It didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
About 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me.
Ellen Henderson has accused her ex-roommate, Tara Williams, of breaking their lease. Tara claims she filed the restraining order because Ellen was stalking her.
Miss Henderson, it didn't work out. You should be very happy. She's gone. You didn't like her.
She overcharged me utilities with her business expenses.
Okay.
Every month we lived there.
We have a bill for December and January. If there's anything here that's not December and January, I'm dismissing that part of your claim. And I already have a bill that's dated April of 2022.
Right, that was for January and February water.
That's $390. Billing date 4/14. No.
It was.
No. I want you, because I'm losing my patience slowly. Please read out the bills, the total bills for December and January only. Sarah, get ready.
Can it go till February 1st?
Yes.
Okay.
By the way, while she's looking for that, did you go to her kid's school?
I mailbox. She knew it was coming from me, and I had to go back to the mailbox and get it after a month.
Okay.
And I didn't know where she lived. I didn't know how else to reach her.
Okay. Did you come in contact with her on the 25th of May in a pedestrian car incident?
Not that I recall.
At about 1 minute to 8 in the morning. Who drives a white minivan?
Me. What was the date?
May 25th.
Oh, yeah, that was her kid's school. That was her kid's school when I delivered the letter.
Well, that's why she filed for protective order against you. Not unreasonable. It was dismissed after a hearing, or it was just dismissed?
It was dismissed after a hearing.
Yeah. Part of your claim for filing a false restraining order is dismissed. I could actually see why you would get frightened if somebody went to your kid's school to serve you papers. Okay, what are the bills for utilities?
Can I just say something?
Sure.
I had to give her those letters in order to file for small claims.
Okay.
I had tried to mail it, and she didn't go to the post office.
I got it. Could we have the utilities? Which utility and what is it? You should have all this together for me and not make it difficult. Okay. This is why you were coming. Don't read out the numbers, what the utility is for what month and the amount.
So water, $257.94. Water for February was $132.09. For 12/03 bill date for electricity was $167.
What date?
12/20.
That's December.
Yes,
but that was for November.
I thought we were doing December, January.
For December, but you wouldn't have got 12/03. They're not prorated. Come on, let's go.
Okay, 2/04. This was prepared for electricity, $74.72.
Okay.
This one was for the date that I ended of 1/28 to 2/01. It was $12.78 for Edison electricity.
Let's move on.
And then this is gas for 12/29 to 1/27. It was $37.04. And then the ending charges was $5.72.
Got it? Yes. $5.72. I can't believe it. Okay, would you add those up?
Yeah.
And your arrangement with her, Miss Henderson, was that you each paid half of the utilities. Is that right?
Yeah. Can I say something about that too? Back in April or May of 2021, I had went to her to speak and ask about me paying less for water, gas, and electric because she brought all of her Airbnb laundry. She has a cleaning business. And our washers and dryers were going constantly.
And
she didn't meet me halfway, so I was stuck paying half.
Fine.
I have the total whenever you're ready. 507.51.
Divide it by 2.
$254.
1243 less 254. 1243 is what she's owed now, less the security deposit. I love this case. Couldn't be more excited about it.
$989.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $989.
Your Honor,
They're
I had
finished.
two
Thank you very much.
that
We're
were
done.
ruined.
Court is adjourned.
Thank you.
It's sad that I lost, but I put up a good fight.
I'm happy with the decision.
She didn't want to live with me, that there were issues. Why would you turn in a lease to renew for a whole nother entire year with someone?
It's been a lot of stress.
I wanted her to file suit so I could see her in court in order to take care of the matter.
I had nowhere to go, and I didn't think she was going to renew. We got along, and I loved her and her kids, and I don't know that I could have done anything different.
So the new phenomenon that I've seen over this past generation, for as long as I've been in this business, is because of the economy, people having to live together that are neither in love with each other or related to each other. And I actually think, Sarah, that's such a very hard thing to do. Mm-hmm. You know, this isn't the first case that we've had that involved adults and their kids having to, for financial reasons, move in with each other. I think I've always said, and I don't know how you feel about this, that I'd rather live in a shoebox alone than with strangers in more comfortable surroundings.
Sure. I think that's a tough call that a lot of people are having to make nowadays with the cost of living and inflation.
Young people.
2 single mothers trying to live together with their children to give them a home environment. So it's a risk that you take when you don't know the other person. Even when you do know them, we see family members fighting all the time. So I think it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that people have to make those kinds of choices for happiness. Shouldn't create that kind of stress.
I think the best thing you can do is have a concrete contract to fall back on for if something like this happens, because it's a very stressful situation.
Yeah, but nobody wants to take that risk. Yeah. Nobody wants to, who's signing a lease agreement, say, if it doesn't work out, this is what happens. Well, that's never between the tenant and the landlord. As between those two people, maybe it would be enforceable, but not between the two tenants and the landlord.
Landlords.
Rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2016, Pajaro versus Stratman.
Mr. Perari, it is your claim that the defendant, who lived with you for a brief period of time, owes you money for a plane ticket and for her unauthorized use of your credit card.
That's correct.
I don't know what the defense is to this, except that I think her defense is that you were just stupid and she took advantage of you. No. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm actually trying to figure it out. But you met the defendant, according to you, on an online dating app and started a conversation with her on what date?
So we met in March 2020 on a dating app for LGBTQ people. We started dating in March 2020. 4 months later, she moved in with me, which I know is not smart, but...
July?
Yes, in July 2020.
And where had she been living?
She had been living in Florida.
And where do you live?
I live in Seattle, Washington.
Did you send her money for a plane ticket? How did she get to you?
She had money herself at that time to cover the cost of moving.
So she moved and it was her own funds that she used to move?
Yeah, the swindling hadn't started yet.
You must have had some substantial What is this? What is this look? I don't know what this look is.
Oh, it's just the verbiage.
Okay, well, let me go back and let me start with you, okay? Because there's only one theatrical person here in this room, and that's me. You understand?
I do.
Yes. I get paid the big bucks to be theatrical. Okay, so Miss Stratman, you lived in Miami.
Happened, everyone kind of lost their jobs.
And what arrangements did you make with him when you were going to move in with him?
He told me that if I gave up my life in Florida, I had a very lovely apartment, lots of friends.
You had a lovely apartment, you had nice
gave up
friends,
everything to
but
go
no
and
job.
move to Seattle.
Okay, so he said, move to Seattle and I'll take care of you.
Yes.
That's what you say in here.
Yes.
And that was in July of 2020.
Yes.
Is that about what you said to her?
No. The reason she moved in, again, it was 4 months after we started dating, which normally...
Had you seen her during those 4 months?
We had Zoom.
That's either yes or
no. No.
No, you had no
virtually.
physical contact with her.
No.
Okay.
But because we were in lockdown and we were both pretty isolated, it made sense. Her lease was ending and things moved really fast between us, so we decided to try it together. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any discussion about what she was going to do once she got to Seattle?
Yeah. So as she stated, she was a freelance video editor. And she said she was going to potentially have more work in Seattle and continue to try and find gigs for that or find other employment, drive for Uber Eats.
But she came to you and she wasn't working?
She wasn't working, no.
Okay. And did she ever work when she was with you?
Not that I
Just a second, I'm going to ask her. Did you ever have full-time gainful employment during the time that you lived with the plaintiff?
I did not. I was not supposed to.
I didn't ask you. I don't ask to be editorialized. I asked you, did you ever work full-time?
No.
Did you ever work part-time?
No.
Okay. Then there came a time, according to what I read in both of your papers, that he purchased a plane ticket for you to go back to Miami. That would be a yes.
That is correct. You're
And what month was that?
That was in February of 2021.
And tell me, in your own words, what you told him as to why you wanted to go to Miami, because he wasn't going with you.
He was not going with me.
Tell me what you told him as to why you needed to go to Miami.
I told him that I needed to visit my sister.
And does your sister live in Miami?
Yes.
Had you been there to visit her before?
I had, yeah.
While you were living with him?
No. I didn't travel.
So this was the first time you wanted to go and visit your sister?
Yes.
Okay. Was there any specific reason that you gave him as to why you wanted to go visit your sister?
She was sick and I wanted to be there.
But did you tell him what she was sick with?
Yeah, it was COVID.
Does she live alone?
At the time, yes.
You know, this is not going to be easy. It's going to get harder. Now, the plaintiff seems like a relatively intelligent human being. Hands off hips. If somebody I lived with say, I want to go and see, unless it was a young child, maybe in 21, I would say, well, why would you do that and put yourself at risk and then come back and put me at risk? Didn't you have that conversation?
We didn't, Your Honor, no. It just didn't come up.
I want to go take care of my sister because she has COVID. What about isolation? Didn't you ever hear about that?
I did hear about that. I spent a lot
Well, what do you think that means?
Isolation means not traveling.
No, isolation means you're not supposed to be around other people if you test positive for COVID. If you're sick, stay at home. You don't travel cross country to be with somebody who's sick. But it doesn't make any difference, actually, because you should have picked up on that or whatever, because you didn't really want this ticket, according to what I read, Miss Strackman, to go and visit your sick sister. You needed this ticket because you had started to become involved with a boyfriend who was in jail in Florida.
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. So that's a yes, which you didn't tell him. So you took the money from him for, let's just start with the ticket, under false pretenses.
I did, but
Just a second. That's all. I did. Not a but. Not a little. I did take the money from him under false pretenses when you went to Florida. He said you needed it for one thing, and in fact, you didn't. That's under false pretenses. How much was the ticket?
The ticket was for $427.40.
Okay. And when you went to Florida...
Giving me a credit card.
That's not what I asked you. That's a name. Whose credit card did you use when you stayed at the hotel?
The plaintiff, Yanni's.
Mm-hmm. And that was by pre-arrangement with him that you were going to stay in a hotel rather than with your sister?
No, but I had the credit card for...
Now, that's not what I mean. Let's go back. You had the credit card. I'm assuming for the purpose of this question that what you say, and I don't know if it's true, but assuming for this question that what you say in your answer is accurate, that he gave you a credit card to use for your necessaries and expenses for emergencies.
Yes.
Yes. You would agree that going to visit secretly another boyfriend in Miami is not a necessity.
You would agree that Yanni cheating on me was not a necessity.
No. But did you use his credit card?
I did, and I believe that human loving kindness.
Okay, just a second. That's it. Do I look like I need help from you? If you had given him, Miss Strackman, a credit card, I want you to try to take everything else from out of your mind. If you had given him your credit card and said, I'm giving this to you because I said to you I would take care of you when we lived together if you didn't have a job. Let's say I believe that. I'm not so sure, but let's say I believe that. you would agree that going to see another boyfriend across the country was not a necessity for him. Or for me, or for Whitney,
for you, no,
or for Sarah.
For me, I'm a woman with needs. I need dopamine, I need love, I need connection, and I wasn't getting that from Yenny.
You didn't pay for his other girls.
I paid emotionally.
Oh, you said, what an idiot.
Yenny Pajaro claims his ex-girlfriend, Gigi Strackman, owes for the cost of a plane ticket, credit card charges, and stealing his cat. Gigi says they were all necessary expenses for her.
Now, you should feel so lucky that you got off so cheap.
I think you should assume everything that comes out of her mouth.
No. Yeah.
Because if I had, I wouldn't be here.
I get who I'm dealing with,
Yes.
sir. $427 for the flight ticket. How much was the credit card?
The credit card. Also, there's an incident with my cat as well, which
just a second.
I'll address later.
Well, I'm going to get to that in a minute. That's your least strong suit, but it sort of tells me again who I'm dealing with. Okay. How much did she use on the credit card in Miami?
Okay.
So only in Miami.
Right. In Miami, she spent $1,000 on.
Now, just a second. Is that a sheet from your credit card company?
Yes.
I'd like to see it. Easier.
Would you like me to add the $427 for the flight ticket?
Yeah. Let's separate the two for me now. Mm-hmm. Okay. Giving you start, just show me where the bills are.
So those are two separate credit card statements because.
Credit card.
Yes.
I only want to see the charges from Miami.
Okay, it's the one that says bail bonds, the bigger charge, which was.
Just circle.
Okay.
How much?
That was for $1,000, but overall it was.
No, $1,000. We're going to do it this way. $1,000 bail bonds.
Yes.
Okay. Next.
And then she spent $262.50 at a hotel for both.
$250 for a hotel.
And then she spent $105 on a fancy dinner for her and her lover.
And her what?
And her lover.
Okay. 150?
150 is not fancy. That's the kind of person you're dealing with.
150. I don't think there's a question before you, madam. 10, 4, $1,400 there. Is that close?
Including the 1,000?
Including the 1,000, but then not including the 425. So it would be 1,827.
Correct.
Thank you. Okay. Now let's get to the final issue. So that takes care of your plane ticket and the credit card while she was in Miami. Now let's talk about the cat. Ms. Strackman, you moved in with the plaintiff July of 20.
Yes.
And when you moved in with the plaintiff, did he have a cat?
Yes, he did.
Okay. And what was that cat's name?
That cat's name is Momo.
And you lived with him a total of approximately 6 months.
Yes, Your Honor. And during that time, the cat...
No, I didn't ask you any questions. There's no question before you. There's no question before you. I have dates. You moved in, you lived with him for 6 months. When you moved in, the cat was there. And if you recall, in what month and year had you gotten the cat?
I got Momo right before she moved in with me as an emotional support.
So you didn't have the cat long?
No.
When she moved in?
No.
And then the two of you had the cat?
Yes.
Okay,
but
great.
That was
and then when she, just a second, then when she left in February of 2021.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We are now in August of 2022. And you recently filed this case with regard to your cat.
Right. I didn't know where she was.
Just a second.
Disappeared.
I don't care.
Okay.
You recently filed this case with regard to the cat. Did you make a police report when she left with the cat?
I don't.
The answer is either yes or no.
I don't like involving the police, so no. I didn't want to ruin her life.
Oh, well, I want to tell you something. I have a small 4-pound dog at home. I love that creature more than anything in the world, except my grandchildren, my husband, and my children. Hope there are enough life rafts for everybody, including the dog.
I did try to hire a private investigator in Florida, but I didn't know where she was.
Okay, you didn't report it to the police, and I do have a problem with that. Now, Ms. Strackman, you knew when you moved into him he had this cat that he had adopted.
Yes, Your Honor.
I want you to tell me what led you to believe you had the legal right to take that cat.
I paid for everything.
And so the cat...
So he was neglecting the cat and you, so you decided maybe half a neglect, you could be one whole person.
Exactly. Me and her just getting out of here and going to go start a new life together. I spent day and night with that cat. That cat was extremely bonded to me. She would be devastated without me.
Tell me how the cat died in your custody. Tell me how the cat died in your custody. That's not a smile story.
It's not. No, it's absolutely devastating. I am completely torn up about it. Unfortunately, my boyfriend's dog was not accustomed to cats and mistook her for a toy. and she did not survive that.
What kind of a dog does your boyfriend have?
We don't know the breed. I've never done the genetic testing.
Do you have a picture of the dog?
I do not. I didn't bring any. So I was hoping you just used.
You just brought your smile. Okay.
She's not with her boyfriend.
She said, I didn't ask you a question. There's no question before you.
Love transcends bars, Annie.
Okay. 1827, $1,000 for taking his cat, and because you're a fool. 7, 2, 8, 2827. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much. We're done here.
This court is adjourned.
First of all, I'm glad, and I think justice was served. I'm not for Momo, but for the other scams that Jacqueline pulled.
Then I need dopamine, I need oxytocin, I need love, I need care.
Well, credit card fraud.
And Yenny said that they were going to be the person who was going to give that to me.
Deception, played with my heart.
And then didn't, so I had to find it elsewhere.
It was that news, so...
I did not set a hitman out on the cat. That's a lot to say.
She saw me as a sugar daddy, and she saw herself as a wannabe Anna Nicole Smith. Unfortunately, neither of us are those things.
Could I plead the fifth on finding another sugar daddy?
Yet another lesson we learned about cohabitants living together and the rules of what not to do. No cars, no pets, no money exchanges.
No joint pets, no joint.
Exactly. But today we learned
shares.
a new one. Today, don't give access to your credit card to anyone that you don't want racking up charges for any purpose, even to visit a secondary lover in another state.
You know, the divorce rate in this country is still hovering we're around 50%. The living togethers who don't quite make it to the marriage place is a much greater number.
Yeah.
Living togethers don't stay together 70% of the time. Why in the world would you buy a pet together?
It's a risk.
Car together? A timeshare together?
True.
Or give somebody a credit card.
Yeah.
At the time that you do it, you're happy with them. But since at least 70% of the time you
प्यारे नाज़रीन, आज के इस वीडियो में हम आपको बताएंगे कि इमाम साहब की बेटी आखिर ऐसा कौन सा गुनाह करती थी जिसकी वजह से इस पर इतना दर्दनाक अज़ाब आया, जिसको गांव वाले देखकर तौबा और इस्तग़फ़ार करने लगे। लिहाजा हमारी आपसे गुजारिश है कि हमारे इस इबरतनाक वाक़े को अंत तक ज़रूर देखिएगा और इस वाक़े को अपने दोस्त अहबाब के साथ भी ज़रूर शेयर कीजिएगा, क्योंकि इस वाक़े को सुनने से हो सकता है उनकी ज़िंदगी भी बदल जाए और वो नेक काम करने लग जाए और आपके लिए सदका जारिया हो जाए। प्यारे नाज़रीन, करीम बख्श साहब की बेटियां सारा दिन टीवी देखती रहती, जब वो मना करते तो उनकी बीवी बीच में आ जाती, कहती बच्चियां इन्हें आज़ादी से जीने दो, आप क्या हर वक्त रोक टोक करते रहते हैं। करीम बख्श साहब की बीवी और बेटियों की बात पर अफसोस होता, इनके दिल में खुदा का खौफ था। फिर एक दिन इनकी बेटी टीवी देखते हुए बड़े बेहुदा किस्म का रक्स करने लगी। अच्छा जी, थोड़ी देर बाद दोनों ने आगे बढ़कर एक थप्पड़ लगा दिया। इनकी बीवी ने गुस्से में इन्हें बुरा भला कहा तो करीम बख्श साहब घर से निकलकर मस्जिद में चले गए। थोड़ी ही देर बाद एक बच्चा दौड़ता हुआ आया। इसने बताया कि गर्मियों की शाम थी, असर के बाद भी ऐसा लग रहा था जैसे अब भी सूरज सवा नेज़े पर है। गर्मी थी कि कम होने का नाम नहीं ले रही थी। ऐसे में बड़े करीम बख्श साहब ने नौकरी करना बहुत मुश्किल था। 25 साल की उम्र में वो बहुत सी बीमारी में मुब्तला हो चुके थे, लेकिन घर का खर्चा चलाने के लिए इन्हें नौकरी करनी थी। फिर 3 जवान बेटियों का साथ था जिनके रिश्तों के लिए वो भी परेशान रहता था। न जाने क्या बात थी कि बेटियों के लिए कोई अच्छा रिश्ता ही नहीं आता था, और जो रिश्ते आते वो इस काबिल ना होते कि वो अपनी बेटियों के वो रुखसत करते। 1-2 अच्छे रिश्ते आए भी थे, लेकिन इसे इनकी बेटियों ने ठुकरा दिया था। इनकी बेटियां ना सिर्फ जवान थी बल्कि बहुत ही मुँह ज़ोर थी। वो अपने बाप के मुंह पर साफ जवाब देने से बाज नहीं आती थी। अब भी करीम बख्श साहब दफ्तर से लौटते वक्त बहुत ही ज़्यादा परेशान थे। इनके हाथ में शादी का कार्ड था। इनके दफ्तर के एक दोस्त ने अपनी बेटी की शादी पर दावत देकर बुलाया था और इनके दिमाग में यही सोच चल रही थी कि इनकी ज़िंदगी में ये दिन कब आएगा। कोई बेटा तो था नहीं, तीनों बेटियों की जिम्मेदारी थी, और ऐसे में अब तक वो एक बेटी को भी रुखसत नहीं कर पाया। वो जितना भी कमाता है इसकी बीवी सब का सब खर्चों में उड़ा देती। ना ही अच्छे रिश्ते आ रहे थे, ना ही बेटियों को रुखसत करने के लिए इसकी बीवी ने कुछ जमा पूंजी थी। इनकी आंखों में आंसू दिला रही थी। ये सब बातें इनकी आंखों में आंसू दिला रही थी। वो मुस्तकबिल को लेकर बहुत ही फिक्रमंद थे। अक्सर तो इन्हें ये बहुत परेशानी सी आ जाती कि अगर वो इस दुनिया से चले गए तो इनकी बेटियों को क्या होगा। वो जानते थे कि इनकी बेटियां किसी काबिल नहीं हैं। वो कम से कम वो बड़ी बेटी के فرض سے تو سب فرض ادا ہوتے. ان سب سوچوں کے درمیان اپنے گھر کے پہنچنے تو ٹی وی کی تیز آواز نے ان کا ہی استقبال کیا تھا. کریم بخش صاحب کو ٹی وی سے بہت سخت نفرت تھی، لیکن بیٹیوں کے آگے وہ خاموش ہو جاتے تھے. ابھی بیٹیوں کے آگے وہ خاموش ہو جاتے تھے. ابھی کریم بخش صاحب نے زور سے سلام کیا، لیکن ان کی بیٹیاں ٹی وی میں اس قدر مصروف تھیں کہ انہیں باپ کے سلام کی آواز بھی نہیں آئی. گھر کا حال بہت ہی برا تھا، ہر چیز بے ترتیب پڑی تھی، بس بیٹیاں ٹی وی پر نظر جمائے بیٹھی تھی. کریم بخش صاحب نے ایک نظر پورے گھر پر ڈالی اور انہیں یہ دیکھ کر بہت افسوس ہوا کہ 3 جوان بیٹیوں کے ہوتے ہوئے بھی گھر کسی کباڑ خانے کا منظر پیش کر رہا تھا. وہ تھکے ہارے کرسی پر بیٹھ گئے. کسی نے ان سے پانی تک نہیں پوچھا. ان کا سارا وجود پسینے سے شرابور ہو گیا. چند پیسے بچانے کی خاطر وہ دور سے پیدل چلتے ہوئے گھر آئے تھے. کچھ دیر سانس لینے کے بعد وہ پانی پی کر کمرے میں گئے تو وہاں ان کی بیوی موبائل فون میں مصروف تھی. کریم بخش نے بیوی کو سلام کیا. ان کے چہرے کو دیکھتے ہی بیوی نے سلام کا جواب دیا. وہ فون میں مصروف رہی. کریم بخش صاحب گھر کے اس ماحول سے تنگ آ چکے تھے. نہ بیٹیوں کو کسی بات کا ہوش تھا، نہ بیوی کو. کریم بخش صاحب بستر پر لیٹ گئے اور باہر سے آتی آوازوں کو نظر انداز کرنے لگے. حالانکہ یہ آوازیں انہیں بہت تکلیف پہنچا رہی تھیں. کریم بخش صاحب ایک نیک آدمی تھے، 5 وقت کے نمازی تھے. کریم بخش صاحب کی غیر موجودگی میں نماز بھی پڑھا دیا کرتے تھے. یہی وجہ تھی کہ اس طرح کی چیزیں بہت پسند نہیں تھی. کچھ دن بعد مغرب کی اذان سنائی دی تو کریم بخش صاحب نے بیٹیوں کو آواز دی اور کہنے لگے ٹی وی کی آواز کم کر دو. لیکن بیٹیاں نہ جانے کون سا ڈرامہ دیکھ رہی تھیں، انہوں نے ذرا بھی آواز کم نہ کی اور غصے میں اٹھ کر کمرے سے نکلے اور ریموٹ اٹھا کر انہوں نے جیسے ہی ٹی وی کی آواز بند کی تو اس کی چھوٹی بیٹی بے ادبی سے کہنے لگی، ابا کیا مسئلہ ہے؟ آپ نے تو اتنا اچھا سین چل رہا تھا، سب خراب کر دیا. چنانچہ کریم بخش صاحب نے نرمی سے کہا، بیٹی اذان کا احترام کرو، اذان ہو رہی ہے. لیکن ان کی بیٹی ان کے ہاتھ سے ریموٹ چھین چکی تھی اور اس طرح سے باپ کو نظر انداز کیا تھا جیسے وہ موجود ہی نہ ہو. اس کی یہ حرکت کریم بخش صاحب کو بہت بری لگی، لیکن وہ جوان ہوتی بیٹیوں کے ساتھ زیادہ سختی نہیں کرنا چاہتے تھے. اس لیے وہ کمرے میں آئے اور اپنی بیوی سے کہنے لگے، کچھ تو بیان کرو، سارا دن بیٹیاں ٹی وی میں لگی رہتی ہیں، کم سے کم اذانوں کا تو احترام کرے. کریم بخش کی بیوی نے فون سے نظر ہٹا کر ایک نظر ان پر ڈالی. کریم بخش صاحب نے ایک افسوس بھری نظر بیوی پر ڈالی اور ٹوپی اٹھا کر نماز کے لیے گھر سے نکل گئے. نماز کے بعد دعا میں ہاتھ اٹھائے تو پھوٹ پھوٹ کر رونے لگے. انہیں اس بات کی پریشانی واقعی تھی کہ ان کے جانے کے بعد ان کے گھر کا کیا ہوگا. ان کی بیٹیوں کا مستقبل انہیں تاریخ نظر آ رہا تھا. نماز ادا کرنے کے لیے اپنی بڑی بہن کے گھر چلے گئے. وہاں جا کر روتے ہوئے انہوں نے بہن کے آگے فریاد کی. ان کی بہن ان کی بڑی بیٹی کا رشتہ لے لے، لیکن بڑی بہن نے صاف کہہ دیا کہ نہیں، ہم ایسی بہن نہیں چاہتے جسے نہ دین کا پتہ ہو نہ دنیا کا ہوش. اور بڑی بہن نے صاف صاف کہہ دیا کہ آپ کی بیٹیاں نہ پڑھی لکھی ہیں اور نہ ہی گھرداری آتی ہے، نہ دیندار ہیں. میں ایسی لڑکی کو اپنی بہو بنا لوں، مجھے اپنے گھر کا سکون برباد نہیں کرنا. ویسے تو ان کی بڑی بہن بہت اچھی تھی، لیکن ان کی بات اپنی جگہ ٹھیک تھی. اس لیے کریم بخش خاموش ہو کر واپس لوٹ آئے. رات کے 11 بجے وہ سونے کے لیے لیٹے، تب بھی گھر میں ٹی وی کی پوری آواز پورے زور شور سے گونج رہی تھی. پھر اسی طرح 1 بجے تک وہ کچھ کچی پکی نیند میں کروٹیں بدلتا، لیکن ٹی وی کی آواز کم نہ ہوئی. ان کی بیٹیاں ساری رات جاگتی اور آدھا دن سوتی تھیں. وہ یہی بات تھی شاید جن کی وجہ سے کوئی بھی کریم بخش صاحب کی بیٹیوں کا رشتہ لے کر نہیں آتا. چنانچہ اگلی صبح کریم بخش صاحب کی آنکھ کھلی تو انہوں نے شدید بخار تھا. مجبوراً انہوں نے دفتر سے چھٹی کر لی کیونکہ ان کی بیٹیاں سو رہی تھیں. لیکن جب وہ ظہر کی نماز کے بعد بھی نہ اٹھی تب انہوں نے اپنی بیوی سے کہا، تمہاری کوئی بھی بیٹی نہیں اٹھی، تم بیٹیوں کو تمیز کیوں نہیں سکھاتی؟ ساری رات جاگتی